Han Lai is a man who knows exactly what it feels like to be discarded by the world, left bruised and bleeding on a public train floor, while those above him laugh. In this reality, where life is governed by a ruthless system that measures worth in cold points and status, he has been granted a singular, impossible second chance. Sent back to 2013, Han Lai inhabits his 18-year-old body, possessing the sharp, cynical mind of a man who has already seen how the future turns to ash. He is no longer the target. He is the architect, determined to exploit his knowledge of every market surge and social trap to leave his former tormentors in the dust. But as he navigates the halls of university, he realizes that outsmarting the elite requires more than just knowing what happens next. It requires becoming a monster himself. With his eyes finally open, the game of survival begins. Han Lai faces rejection from a potential employer, but because he is an old friend of Mr. Du, he is promised future consideration. He leaves the office, politely declining an offer for a ride. Nearby, onlookers gossip about his failure and his audacity in asking Mr. Du for help, leaving Han Lai to lament the loss of his final chance. He views these empty promises as a farce, feeling like a total failure as he drifts through a crowded terminal, convinced his life is nothing but misery. In a moment of profound hopelessness, the world around him fades into a dark, silent void where he hangs suspended in the nothingness. The power cuts, leaving him in darkness until a sudden, sharp notification sound startles him from his despair. A digital interface activates, announcing a newbie gift pack from a consumer system and prompting him to spend his points to fulfill one wish. Desperate to escape his current life, Han Lai wishes to travel back in time, driven by the desire to restart and finally become an elite. A violent, overwhelming crash echoes through the void as the reality of his regression takes hold, leaving him staring at the night sky in shock. He presses his hand against a glass surface and realizes with mounting terror that he has suddenly become younger, confirming he has regressed to the past. He finds himself on a train, his eyes widening in disbelief as he recognizes his high school crush, Chen Yanfei, sitting directly across from him. Startled, he stammers a response to her, realizing with a jolt that today is August 30th, 2013, the exact day he began his descent. A blonde woman approaches him, asking if he remembers her. They confirm they attended the same high school and are both heading to college registration. She soon realizes she may have boarded the wrong train to Jiaxing. While Han Lai sits in the seat, struggling with the sudden, painful weight of his memories, Pan Xiaohong reacts in alarm when someone shouts about a pervert, but the blonde woman warns him to back off, overwhelmed by the sheer embarrassment of a past memory. Traveling by train, Han Lai reflects on his past self from over a decade ago and decides to eat instant noodles to calm his nerves. When a man questions his choice of meal, Han Lai thinks about Xiaohong's arrogance. Noting that he is no longer the man who would argue back, a system notification disables his wish function and activates the consumer system, explaining that he can upgrade attributes through consumption. Han Lai examines his status, frustrated that his skills are only at levels 1 to 3. He notices a discrepancy in his driving skill levels and realizes with a blush that the system defines them differently, resolving to reach level 5 and become an elite. He is pulled back to reality by a friend, only to lament that he has no money to spend. Spotting Yanfei on the train, he watches as she offers to take her companion to the dining car, but the man declines, ignoring her mother's disapproval of his family. Han Lai chuckles, prompting the man to demand why he is mocking them, while Yanfei complains about the noise and leaves for the dining car. He eats his noodles and warns Yanfei that simping will only help her opponent, noting that Xiaohong is now walking the same pathetic path he once did. After the snacks sell out, a woman offers him a pack of duck legs. He pays 3 yuan for them, and as she smiles and shares half an orange, he is struck by her beauty. Xiaohong slams money on the table, arrogantly claiming he could buy the whole dining car, but the woman scolds him for being rude and rejecting her, angry that his attempt at being thoughtful was so insincere. Finding a woman difficult to deal with, Han Lai barely registers the shift before the tension explodes and a man lunges at him, grabbing his collar and kicking him while shouting insults. Clutching the wall, Han Lai realizes his 18-year-old body is far weaker than expected, coughing up blood as he calls out to Pan Xiaohong. Despite the agony, his mind remains focused on the urgent need to secure his first fortune, knowing that earning money is the only way to upgrade his attributes and eventually become an elite. Nearby, a doctor examines an unconscious passenger, warning the group that severe brain damage and multiple injuries have created a critical situation. Han lies silent on the floor, feeling the raw, searing intensity of the pain inflicted by the sudden assault. His attackers continue to harass him, with one man blaming him for the recent disrespect and sneering at him as a useless target. Han Lai taunts the aggressor in return, calling him pathetic and daring him to keep playing tough, knowing the reliance on brute force is their only solution. Stung by the insult, the attacker reacts with shock and pure rage, threatening to show Han Lai what real toughness looks like. Under his breath, Han Lai whispers a quiet word of thanks to his ally, grateful for the support in planning his next move regarding Chen Yanfei. Violence erupts as the attacker lunges with a heavy punch, causing onlookers to scream in alarm while searching frantically for the transit police. A bystander attempts to restrain the assailant, but the man screams over the chaos that he will kill Han Lai today. Pan Xiaohong follows up with a powerful calculated strike, further escalating the mayhem aboard the train. Chen Yanfei shouts in alarm, pleading with the figures on the floor, while Pan Xiaohong stares back in a volatile mix of shock and anger. Through a bloodied face, Han Li offers a mocking smile, calling his opponent a loser despite the critical nature of his own condition. The blonde woman rushes to his side, anxiously checking his pulse and calling out for a doctor to assist the injured boy. He tells them he is fine, but as his vision blurs and he falls, she screams for a doctor. A witness explains to the attendant that the assailant was harassing the girl, leading her to blame herself for Han Li getting caught in the violence. She begs him to stay out of trouble, but the attacker attempts to justify his actions to the arriving police officer by claiming he was mocked on purpose. The officer sternly warns the aggressor that having money is no excuse for bullying, promising him jail time for the illegal assault. Pan Xiaohong frantically begs Chen Yanfei to vouch for his innocence, but she only stares back with teary, distressed eyes as he finally grasps the gravity of his situation. Feeling the pressure of the aftermath, Pan Xiaohong calls his father, hoping his parents can intervene to navigate the fallout of the violent clash. Later, he winces, complaining about his aching mouth while the blonde girl checks his arm, causing a classmate nearby to react in visible shock at their sudden closeness. The classmate suffers a spontaneous nosebleed, completely overwhelmed by her beauty, while she remains focused solely on Han Li's condition. She checks if he is scared and suggests they head to the hospital together, noticing with concern that he has lost a tooth during the brawl. Dismissing the injury as minor, he remains frustrated by the unprovoked assault, vowing to undergo a full medical exam to ensure his attacker faces the full weight of the law. As the train pulls into the station, the girl remains visibly stunned by the raw violence she just witnessed. She wonders aloud how Pan could act with such cruelty, clearly shaken by the event and fearing what might happen next. Han Li stumbles as the door opens, but she catches him, and he gratefully acknowledges her reputation as the second high school goddess. Upon realizing he is also from her school, she listens as he jokes that he needs to start exercising more to prevent future beatings. He reflects that he must become strong enough to protect those beside him, prompting her to encourage his resolve while reminding him to prioritize his own safety. Outside the carriage, police officers finally detain Pan, effectively turning his assault into a criminal case now that his violent temper has finally caught up with him. Han Li later wakes up in a private hospital room, where a nurse reassures him that he is receiving the best care possible. Noting that Mr. Pan is footing the bill, he checks his status window and realizes his medical expenses have converted into experience points, hoping his recovery will further boost his progress. A visitor arrives to check on him, and they discuss changing their nicknames, with the girl playfully suggesting he be called Tough Guy Li Ji. Panji hands him his glasses and he reflects on how little he knew this beauty in his past life, where she was only known for a grand wedding. Admiring her spirit, he realizes he must thank his attacker for this unexpected opportunity to connect. She proposes they exchange contact information, and after confirming they both use WeChat, she playfully teases him for his sudden interest in her. No sooner has she sent her request than her parents arrive, rushing into the room to check on her well-being. Pan Xiaohong's father approaches, bowing low to apologize for his son's behavior and admitting he failed to discipline his child properly. Her mother expresses shock at the sight of his injuries, pointedly warning her son not to stoop to the level of a brute like Pan Xiaohong. Han Li offers to compensate them, but the elder Pan demands 800,000 yuan, leaving him stunned by the cost. As he contemplates how many attributes he can upgrade with such wealth, the man offers even more to ensure the matter is resolved quickly. He thanks the man but warns that money alone cannot solve the underlying issue, arguing that unless the son learns to correct his behavior, he risks ruining his entire future. Taking this advice to heart, the father promises to educate his son, and Han Li agrees to settle the matter only because of their sincere attitude. The parents offer one final apology before leaving him to rest, and he waves them goodbye as they exit. Meanwhile, the elder Pan meets with Mr. Chen to apologize for the trouble, prompting the man to vow that he will protect his daughter Yan Yan from any further harassment. They walk together, their conversation heavy with frustration over the younger Pan's unreasonable and violent conduct. Panji's father reassures her that the boy will no longer bother her, leading her to lament that if Pan Xiaohong had even half of Han Li's maturity, things would never have escalated. When her father questions her interest in a boy she has only known for a day, she explains their school connection and notes that he was injured specifically while defending her. Although her father concedes that Han Li seems sensible, he cautions her that such composure in a young man is usually forged through harsh life circumstances. Her father remains skeptical, warning that while Han Li is impressive, such maturity is born of hardship and dating him would be exhausting. She simply brushes off the concern, insisting she has no romantic intentions. Alone in his room, Han Li realizes his medical expenses are converting directly into experience points for his consumer system. He calculates his options, noting the 200,000 yuan settlement is only accessible once his treatment officially concludes. Deciding to prioritize his long-term health, he commands the system to correct his vision, desperate to shed the myopia that once made him a target for ridicule. As his sight sharpens, he catches his reflection and notices a distinct shift in his features. He realizes that optimizing one attribute creates a ripple effect, enhancing his overall attractiveness and granting him a newfound edge. The system confirms his appeal has climbed by 3 points due to the structural eye correction. He observes with satisfaction how his various physical traits now harmonize to create a more striking presence. Soon a message pops up from Panji offering to bring him snacks, though he playfully requests books instead, wary that their growing connection might invite unwanted gossip or trouble in their school. The following day, she arrives with a stack of novels, including a cultivation story. He teases her for playing the role of a classic heroine, earning a sharp retort that he should just call her by her name instead. She dismisses his teasing, remarking on how his refined look has significantly boosted his charm. Han Li strikes a confident pose, promising that he will be even more magnetic once he fully recovers from his injuries. Pan teases him about his new look, suggesting his glasses were the only barrier to his true charm and challenging him to finally show his real self. She promises to visit again tomorrow before she departs, then playfully demands he prepare a speech to impress her father, leaving him bewildered by the sudden mention of her family. Shortly after, a man in a suit arrives to help a woman apologize for her previous outburst. He accepts the apology but warns them to stop worrying their parents, a remark that leaves the man visibly frustrated. Handing over a red envelope containing 80,000 yuan from the culprit's funds, the man confirms that a lawyer has finalized the settlement, bringing Han Li's total compensation to 1.15 million yuan. With the path to becoming an elite now clear through consumption and wealth, he resolves to prioritize raising all his basic attributes to level 69. He considers sinking his million yuan into a school zone flat in Dream City, even if it forces him to survive on nothing but ramen throughout his college years. Uncle Chen and Yanfei soon arrive, and to his surprise, the older man presents him with a token of apology. As the man explains the gift is compensation for his daughter's emotional outburst, Han Li refuses, insisting that Yanfei was a victim herself and bears no responsibility. Impressed by such maturity, Uncle Chen invites him to visit their home in Dream City and asks him to look after Yanfei should their schools be nearby. Learning she attends Shanghai International Studies University, Han Li dismissively calls it a Tier 3 humanities school, a comment that leaves her visibly shocked. The older man confides his own past academic regrets, prompting Han Lo to stop dwelling on his previous failures and focus entirely on the next stage of his life. After encouraging his future entrepreneurial plans and receiving assurances that Yanfei will benefit from his positive influence, the two depart to catch their flight. Once the discharge paperwork is finalized, he exchanges contact information with a nurse, feeling a surge of resolve as he prepares to begin his journey for real. He arrives in Dream City, acutely aware that the rapid development over the next 2 years will allow him to seize the housing market and build his fortune. Scouting for a school district unit to purchase in full, he decides that locking down this property is the best way to utilize the savings his parents intended for his future. He finalizes his property strategy, planning to rent out 2 units to cover loans before selling for profit, though he pauses to reminisce about his parents before the weight of his new reality settles in. Checking into a deluxe presidential suite, he justifies the steep cost as a necessary investment. Where he once could only afford basic economy rooms, he is now determined to spend lavishly on his own advancement. With over 1 million experience points accumulated, he attempts a full physical makeover, but the system blocks his request to replace his teeth because the cost exceeds his current level limit. Reviewing the requirements to reach level 2, he realizes he must first max out his attributes and knowledge skills, a monumental task only made possible by his recent expensive real estate acquisition. As he triggers the upgrade, a surge of power flows through him, sharpening his mind until he is suddenly flooded with complex theories ranging from advanced calculus to the Riemann hypothesis. Alarmed by the cognitive strain, he struggles to maintain his composure, realizing he must process these intense mental shifts one by one to avoid total exhaustion. Waking up later, he feels momentarily disoriented and questions if he is still alive, until the stark reality of his 2013 regression rushes back to ground him. Regretting his reckless attempt to rush the process, he checks his status screens and understands that genuine knowledge accumulation is just as vital as raw talent for an aspiring elite. His phone rings with a call from the school regarding his 15-day absence, forcing him to lie to his teacher about his injuries to buy more time for his personal development. A system notification confirms he has finally reached level 2, unlocking the ability to spend points on attributes, though he is shocked to see that maxing out a single stat requires millions. He notices a new consumer gift feature but decides to postpone investigating it, choosing instead to focus on his physical presence in the real world. Returning to campus, he finds his refined appearance drawing immediate admiration from fellow students, confirming his belief that facial adjustments are essential investments in a society that judges by looks. He makes his way to the administrative office to report for his finance studies, calling out for Mr. Liu, who greets him from the doorway. Presenting his medical records, Han Lai explains his extended absence was due to a severe concussion, which the administrator quietly reviews. As he prepares to settle the administrative fees, he privately considers Liu Pangzi simple-minded, resolving to maintain his cover while ensuring the man's eventual affairs are handled. After inquiring about his dormitory assignment, he learns the living quarters are rowdy, prompting him to insist that he requires absolute quiet to recover from his injuries. He offers a local delicacy to secure a spot in a 4-person room, paying a premium on his credit card to avoid the 5 troublesome roommates who made his past life a misery. When a roommate later extends a meal invitation, he politely declines, reminding himself that disciplined consumption is the only path to maintaining his elite status. With 40,000 yuan still at his disposal, he sets out to acquire daily necessities, aiming to boost his appearance attribute to 79 before the semester ends. Stepping out of a store, he realizes his phone is missing, but he dismisses the loss, deciding to simply upgrade to a newer model soon. He spots a collection of books and challenges the price, aware of the vendor Shaluo's financial straits, and successfully negotiates the cost down to 100 yuan, which triggers a system gift. He receives a glowing sutra as a reward for intelligence points, realizing that becoming a genius will require significant experience. Snapping out of his intense concentration, he tells his companion he must return to his room to rest and recover his strength. The following morning, the instructor introduces him to the finance class, drawing a round of applause from the gathered students. Stepping forward with a smirk, he recalls how his former lack of confidence turned him into a laughingstock, a stark contrast to the profound transformation he now embodies. He introduces himself as a student from Dream City, declaring his ambition to conquer the market and become an elite who balances wealth with integrity. While some classmates whisper in mockery, others are visibly impressed by his eloquence, and he concludes by challenging them all to chase their own grandest aspirations. The applause echoes through the hall as Han Li pivots, asking the class monitor to handle the dues while playfully teasing the room about his availability, though he insists on private messages to keep his growing social influence under the radar. Whispers ripple through the rows as classmates comment on his striking looks and his mysterious absence from the dorms, but he ignores their scrutiny, turning his attention instead toward the front of the room. Shi Luting approaches through the throng of students eager to add him to their group chat, presenting herself as the monitor and briskly demanding the necessary class fees. Recognizing her as one of the school's goddesses, he recalls the manipulative games she played in his former life. Yet he wonders if their current dynamic can remain neutral as he continues his pursuit of elite status. He rattles off 3 specific requests, including his search for a partner, which leaves her baffled. Brushing aside her confusion, he simply drops the 200 yuan fee onto her desk. Satisfied once she agrees to provide activity notices 3 days in advance, he turns away as Yu Yun sidles up, greeting him with a playful grin and an offer to pull him into the class digital circle. She attempts to dissect the meaning of his name, musing on whether it suggests danger or loyalty. But he remains detached, his gaze fixed on his phone as he monitors his system status. Sensing she might have crossed a line, she pivots to ask about his peculiar phone, and when he dismisses it as a budget Xiaomi 1, she begins to question if his refined demeanor is merely a carefully constructed facade. Laughter breaks out as classmates tease him about his interest in Yu Yun, but he counters that he values inner substance over mere surface-level charm, reinforcing his own rigid standards. Waiting for the elevator, he suddenly opts for the stairs, his choice to walk to his lower-floor dorm, leaving the onlookers stunned by his unpredictable behavior. Safely inside his room, he asks his roommates for a cigarette, finally settling into the quiet of his new living arrangement as he prepares for the next phase of his ascent. The air in the room thickens as his roommates linger in silence, lighting cigarettes to mask their unease. Han Li fixes his gaze on the blonde man, ordering him to vacate the desk and return the chair, but the man merely exhales a cloud of smoke and defiantly questions the consequences of refusal. Maintaining a pained expression, Han Li instructs him to return to his own bed, and the blonde man, visibly relieved, watches him reach toward a shelf. Annoyance flashes across the blonde man's face as he scoffs at the little douche, mockingly asking if he is looking for a fight. Ignoring the taunts, Han Li pulls a heavy claw hammer from his bag with a firm grip while another roommate remains oblivious, lost in his music. The men freeze in shock when they realize Han Li is secretly filming them, his face twisting into a sinister mask as he brandishes the hammer. He glances back at them, places a hand on a blue book, and blows into a whistle to activate a hidden ability, leaving his roommates petrified by the sudden, bizarre display. Staring in horror, one roommate shouts in rage while another impulsively grabs his companion in a headlock, unnerved by Han Li's predatory gaze. Whispering in terror, the group fears he intends to use the hammer on them, their memories of past incidents forcing them to endure his presence in total silence. As he turns to leave, the men confront him, but he coolly informs them that his girlfriend is waiting outside to deal with them. The blonde man asks in shock if he has a girlfriend, while Han Li smiles, satisfied that he has intimidated his rival. Stepping into the quiet hallway, Han Li wonders if he pushed his intimidation tactics too far to maintain proper control. He settles onto his bed to examine his system status, resolving to train harder because while the interface boosts his attributes, true wisdom must be forged by his own mind. Across campus, a student complains about the unfair living disparity, pointing out that despite sharing a finance class, Han Li has secured an exclusive spot in the international dorms. Despite the resentment brewing among his peers, Han Li focuses on his own growth, breathing heavily after a morning run as his youthful vitality surges. He heads toward class where students greet him with a mix of awe and envy. There are whispers centering on his elite living quarters and his recent academic streak. Curious classmates crowd around him to demand the secret behind his housing, but he shrugs off their inquiries with a dismissive claim of sheer luck. Suddenly, a blonde student vents his frustration regarding their strict business law professor. Yet when he arrogantly shoves past others, Han Li refuses to yield his ground. Tension spikes when a cigarette butt hits the floor between them. Onlookers hold their breath, certain that Han Lai has finally invited a confrontation he cannot win. Huang Wei attempts to defuse the situation with a nervous, forced laugh, though his entourage continues to crowd Han Li, pressuring him to explain his next move. Claiming he has pressing plans with his girlfriend, Huang Wei tries to retreat, leaving the bystanders to wonder if this standoff is truly as personal as it seems. Han Li ignores the posturing and declines their offer to escort him, walking instead toward the elevator where a group of women insists he take the lead. Trapped inside the cramped space, he feels the sudden shift in atmosphere, his eyes flickering toward a woman's striking silhouette before he offers a flustered, quick apology. The elevator chimes, yet two strangers loom over the exit, causing the hallway observers to murmur in shock at the power Han Lai seems to exert over his rivals. He pushes the man aside, telling him to stop blocking the path and to keep his hands off other people's wallets. When a bystander questions his sharp dismissal of Zhang Taishu, Han Li stares him down, clarifying that he has no interest in currying favor with everyone he meets. He turns to a companion, finding common ground as they agree that the quality of one's social circle far outweighs the quantity of empty acquaintances. Asked what criteria he uses to select his inner circle, Han Li replies with a smirk that he prefers people who know how to mind their own business. The woman beside him chuckles at his blunt honesty, while another girl leans in close, daring to ask if she might add him on WeChat. He promises to send the requested file later, though he warns the group that he keeps his phone muted and rarely checks his messages. Shi Luting immediately confronts him for his habitual silence, demanding to know if he takes his duties as a student seriously. With a casual shrug, he apologizes by claiming he was preoccupied speaking with a spirit guardian beast throughout the previous night. Yu Yun laughs off the bizarre explanation, yet she decides to maintain her distance, viewing his strange confidence as thinly veiled arrogance. Shifting his focus entirely to his writing, he works with such intense speed that the surrounding girls can only watch in stunned silence. He silently reflects on his accounting skills, realizing that without a structured plan, his rapidly expanding knowledge is becoming an unmanageable burden. Determined to prevent a repeat of his past failures, he forces himself to prioritize his tasks and clear the clutter from his mind. As his pen blurs across the paper, classmates watch in awe, with one student eventually daring to ask if they might study ahead of the curriculum. He dismisses their skepticism by offering 3 distinct explanations for his sudden academic breakthrough, leaving them to decide which version to believe. Choosing the third option, Yu Yun boldly declares her belief that he is simply a natural-born genius. He counters by openly questioning her true motives, sensing that she is only circling him in hopes of benefiting from his perceived future status. Shi Luting challenges him to guess her point, recounting how his rebellion and a cheating girlfriend ruined his academic success. Turning the tables, he asks if she writes web novels in her spare time, catching her completely off guard. Her flustered reaction confirms his suspicion, and he finds the entire situation increasingly intriguing. Her sharp, commanding gaze forces him to resume his lapse, leaving him to reflect on the hidden depths of the girl he once dismissed. He considers the tragic arc of his past, wondering if the hero-like power he now wields can truly rewrite the fates of those around him. Recognizing her secret life as an author, he realizes that her cautious, guarded nature is merely a mask for a complex private world. Memories surface of a past rejection, a woman denying him access to a printer, which now links to a message he had accidentally glimpsed. A desperate fan's plea for a story update in a chat group catches his eye, causing him to stare downward as the pieces of the puzzle align. He suspects this digital handle is her secret contract account, finding the revelation of her dual life deeply intriguing. While she remains focused on her studies, he silently prepares to peel back the layers of her carefully constructed facade. Shi Luting grows flustered, her concentration wavering as she wonders if he has caught on to her internal turmoil. When classmates extend an invitation to lunch, he turns them down, citing pressing matters that demand his immediate attention. A friend questions her interest in him, but she dismisses the concern, convincing herself that his aloofness is just typical behavior for a man. Driven by a relentless need to hoard wealth, he resolves to upgrade his aging tech to maximize efficiency and cut unnecessary costs. Returning to the dorm under the cover of night, the sudden creak of the door catches his roommates off guard. He looms in the darkness, radiating an intensity that leaves his roommate trembling in bed, paralyzed by sheer dread. The terror becomes too much for the man, who decides to pack his bags and move out, while Han finds a twisted amusement in his own intimidating aura. Venturing into the 2013 electronics market, he observes the bustling trade, knowing this current prosperity is merely a cresting wave destined to crash. He picks up an iPhone 5S, calculating that its balance of performance and price makes it the most logical investment for the next 18 months. To avoid the predatory traps of custom hardware vendors, he opts for a pre-built laptop that ensures he won't be swindled. Han Lai considers his next move in the market while reflecting on his recent acquisitions. Sipping a bottle of cola, Han Lai feels a rare moment of satisfaction amidst the bustling market. He runs a quick mental tally, realizing that after securing his new gear, he has 15,000 yuan remaining to cover his upcoming driving school fees. Recognizing that a data plan is an unavoidable necessity, he moves to finalize the purchase of a new SIM card. A sudden system notification chimes, triggering a consumer gift function that catches him off guard, as his previous major purchases had yielded nothing. The system gives him an untraceable SIM card with top-level access, capable of bypassing all interception and dialing any number. Recognizing this elite tool, he immediately swaps it into his phone. Miles away, Shi Lu-ting and her friend occupy themselves by dissecting Han Li's wealthy background and his maddeningly indifferent personality. Han Li's phone pings with a notification containing her private contact details, and he stares at the screen, shocked by the sheer prestige attached to her number. While he recognizes the digits as a mark of high status, Shi Lu-ting is suddenly struck with distress. Realizing someone has leaked her secret contact information, he attempts to track down her fan group online, but comes up empty, leading him to deduce that her literary career has yet to fully ignite. Knowing the golden era of online literature is coming, he decides to use his foresight and her talent to generate profit. He manages to pinpoint her alt account, but upon encountering her cryptic verification questions, he realizes she is guarding secrets that a direct approach will never uncover. Staring at her cryptic verification questions, he feels overwhelmed by the complexity of her social web. Yet a sudden recollection of her writing history provides a breakthrough. He investigates the author behind The Loneliness of a Radiant Cucumber, deducing that only 2 people fit the profile of a writer prone to abandoning multiple projects during the summer of 2013, one of whom is his sister, Yu Yun. Back in the lecture hall, Yu Yun unexpectedly approaches him, sparking immediate gossip among classmates who find her sudden interest completely out of character. Ignoring the chatter, he inwardly smirks, realizing that the bait he carefully laid is finally beginning to attract his intended targets. He observes the tangled social dynamics of his peers, noting that Duan's future involves an unhappy marriage, while the supposed friendship between Shi Lu-ting and Yu Yun is merely a facade. When Yu demands to know why he ignored her messages, he shushes her to maintain his air of mystery. Leaving their roommates to note how effortlessly he manipulates those around him, the conversation shifts to the upcoming transfer student exam, which Yu encourages him to prepare for, confident in his potential to pass. Others join the discussion to mock the idea of boasting about the test, while Duan expresses his envy for those who are already set for life after graduation. John scoffs at the rumors regarding his family's wealth, clarifying that they own 4 apartment units rather than the massive business empire others speculate about. While his classmates obsess over the financial details of Duan's life, he focuses on his own agenda, vowing to track down the perpetrator behind recent events. It becomes clear that Duan is merely a second-generation teardown whose family wealth originated from joint compensation, leaving them comfortable but ultimately socially average. Remaining skeptical of these grandiose claims, he catches Yu watching him, realizing he is the only person in the room who truly captures her interest. And Li deflects the scrutiny with a vague explanation of his mourning, listening as his peers dismiss Duan Xiaoyi as a useful but ultimately worthless figure. A girl keeps her gaze locked on Han Li, observing how his physical attributes seem unnaturally refined for someone his age. He maintains an unbothered composure, unaware that she is silently awarding him internal points for his calm, handsome exterior. A classmate interrupts their unspoken tension to demand if he is truly aiming for the transfer student exam, turning the conversation toward his future academic prospects. Watching from the periphery, Shi Lu-ting realizes his recent behavior stems from the fact that he never intended to remain in this humanities department. When she presses him on why he is obsessively studying advanced math, a subject not required by their current curriculum, he claims he has yet to make a final decision. He swiftly shuts down a classmate who calls him a princess, choosing to lean into their misconceptions to amuse himself rather than offer a sincere defense. As the pressure mounts, students crowd him with questions about whether he is setting his sights on Fudan or Jiatong University. It keeps his ambitions deliberately vague, prompting a girl to snap that he's likely just bragging to inflate his own self-importance. Luoji interjects with a mocking bet that Han Li will inevitably fail the admissions process, his vulgar tone silencing the room. Yu Yun immediately scolds Luoji for his crassness, while another student mocks him for trying to manipulate the group into buying him free food. Frustrated by the sudden chaos, Yu Yun strikes Han Li's arm, warning him not to lower himself by imitating Luoji's disgusting antics. Laughter ripples through the room at Han Li's expense, yet the double standard becomes clear as students continue to criticize Luoji, leaving the man seething. The surrounding group exchanges looks of disbelief, noting how unusually coy and fixated both Yu Yun and Shi Lu-ting had become whenever Han Li is involved. Desperate to avoid being outshined, one classmate impulsively offers to waive 3 years of rent if Han Li manages to get into Fudan, hoping to curry favor. Han Li wonders if this is a deliberate provocation, but he maintains his detachment, silently dismissing the finance majors as predictably boring. An awkward silence settles over the classroom, leaving the students to stare as he pointedly ignores the clear malice directed his way. Realizing their collective jealousy is fueling the conflict, a girl leans in to mockingly tell him to lower his expectations so he can avoid the sting of failure. A maid then arrives to present him with an omelet, a quiet reminder of his resolve to continue upgrading his life through the act of consumption. Amidst this subtle tension, Lu-ting suddenly praises his character and math proficiency, a display of genuine warmth that leaves him visibly shocked. He proceeds to solve complex problems entirely in his head, stunning his peers who assume he is merely guessing while they struggle to grasp the basic formulas. Frustration mounts among the group as they inspect his papers only to find no written work, prompting him to dismiss the entire exam as elementary. Boasting that his level 3 proficiency rivals that of advanced university students, he earns the loud, begrudging praise of his classmates. One student patronizingly suggests he will need to work for a decade just to afford a down payment, offering to rent out his own family's property as a condescending favor. Though others point out that he already resides in international housing, the antagonist persists, clearly hoping to bait a conflict and finally witness his defeat. Hanley mocks this display of luxury, dryly questioning if the family's assets are actually nothing more than collective village property, leaving the student visibly flustered. Systematically dismantling the claims, he details the exact holdings in Yangpu district, forcing his rival to scramble to justify their hollow arrogance. The student recoils as Han Li dismantles his pride, demanding to know how a mere student possesses such intimate knowledge of his family's assets. Dismissing the accusation that his family orchestrated the local relocation, Han Li insists he was simply in the right place at the right time, warning the detractor to drop his superior act. He publicly scolds Duan Xiaoyi for banking on sheer luck and urban development rather than personal merit. Exposing how inflated his status truly is, he points out that family wealth cannot hide Duan's lack of qualifications, telling him to back off before he exposes his own ignorance. When a woman challenges his standing, Han Li warns her that hidden potential is far more dangerous than it looks, adding that his family would not tolerate him being bullied. Explaining that he must be selective with his associates, he sternly commands the student to reflect on his behavior, so such a pathetic confrontation never recurs. The student swallows and admits his defeat, finally grasping the gap between them. As the professor begins a lecture on microeconomics, a system notification pulses as Han Li acquires the SS rank passive skill, Eye of Truth, granting him the ability to perceive the essence of all things. Observing the shift in power, the classmates are struck by Han Li's dominance, with many whispering that someone as arrogant as Duan needed to be put in his place. Yu Yun watches him with newfound interest, reflecting on his perfect balance of grace and sharpness, and contemplates using him as the male lead for her next novel to regain her own composure. Determined to secure a connection with this rising elite, she invites him to join her and Shiluting for lunch. Han Li claims he cannot afford the cafeteria because he blew his savings on a new smartphone, a declaration that leaves his classmates visibly shocked. Annoyed by his apparent cluelessness regarding his own financial standing, she offers to cover his meals instead. Distracted by gaming news on his screen, Han Li barely notices her gesture, leaving her to wonder if her attempt at flirting has backfired into a humiliating, awkward situation. She grabs his wrist to force his attention, urging him to stop the act, which prompts him to declare that he has never been afraid of anyone in this era. Laughter ripples through the onlookers as a maid serves the meal, marking another calculated step in Han Li's ascent as he consumes resources to fuel his transformation into an elite. Shen Yanfei's offer draws a sneer from a nearby classmate, whose mockery of Han Li's supposed dependence leaves her visibly distressed. She pinches his arm, demanding a sharp explanation for the display, which earns a startled yelp of genuine pain from him. Indignantly, he denies having any low-minded intentions, though the heat of the moment leaves him feeling foolish and regretful for his outburst. She insists on paying for the meal to avoid relying on Yu Yun, but he tells her to discuss it with Yu Yun directly. He notes that Duan Xiaoyi's antics have successfully shifted the crowd's focus, yet he remains detached, prioritizing his financial goals over these trivial romantic entanglements. Han Li laments the divide between their conflicting goals, one seeking pure love, and the other a wealthy partner, while the women around him gossip about his mysterious past. One girl justifies the challenge of pursuing him by citing his family's wealth, even as she attempts to belittle Yu Yun by targeting her skincare choices as a sign of poverty. Yu Yun retorts that she is perfectly capable of paying for her own meals, but the other woman merely scoffs, warning her not to come begging for help when she runs out of money. Observing the mounting friction, Han Li finally interrupts to ask if they are actually hungry, hoping to steer the conversation away from their petty squabbles. When a woman questions why he recently upgraded his phone, he quips that he needed to prevent the class monitor from spinning rumors about him being devastated by an ex. The follow-up question regarding his romantic history catches him off guard, and his admission that he has never had a girlfriend leaves her visibly stunned. He claims his high school years were entirely uneventful, a statement the girls dismiss as a blatant lie, though he simply feigns ignorance to keep them off balance. While a girl playfully teases him for his false modesty, Han Li keeps his internal focus locked firmly on his plan to crush the upcoming Hunter Academy entrance exam. The women press him to describe his ideal partner, forcing him to pause and formulate a response as they wait with bated breath. They remark on his traditional sensibilities, concluding that a decent guy like him truly deserves the best the world has to offer. When asked to define what he considers the best, one girl brazenly boasts about her E-cup figure, testing if he is swayed by such displays. As the others plot their strategies to win him over, one girl feels a surge of annoyance at being labeled a romantic rival when she harbors no feelings for him at all. An observer watches the entire spectacle from the periphery, feeling nothing but cold disdain for their childish and unending competition. Amidst the mounting tension, a companion pulls him away, insisting they secure food before the cafeteria rush ends. A maid presents a fresh omelet to him, and he sets out the assorted fruits and snacks he purchased to share with the group. Faith cheerfully motions for him to join her, while others voice relief at his return after a brief disappearance. Insisting on covering the cost, he presents a selection of premium desserts, inviting everyone to pick their favorite. As the others dig into strawberry cake, he playfully offers a high-end cream treat and a single fresh strawberry to Lu Ting. He attempts to tease her into handing over the expensive pastry, chuckling when she immediately recognizes his familiar ploy. When Feifei insists on picking up the tab instead, he wonders why she is suddenly picking faults and acting so protective. He jokes that her generosity will bankrupt him, prompting the group to shift their plans toward a future meal at her place. While the group remains in high spirits, one woman fumes, declaring she has finished competing for his attention. Watching the unfolding scene, he reflects on how these rivalries mirror his own past life and the necessity of crossing thresholds to gain perspective. He peels an orange with calm precision, remaining detached from the petty bickering and uninterested in the surrounding drama. Offering the final slice to Lu Ting, he finds her far more intriguing than the others while keeping his focus fixed on his upcoming tasks. He plots his eventual retribution against those who wronged him, fully aware that the most decisive days of his new life lie ahead. Later, as a friend checks in about lunch, a sudden notification pings on his phone, forcing him to anxiously track the time. Though the lunch invitation lingers in the air, he declines, claiming he has already eaten, and deftly pivots the conversation to evade further scrutiny. Watching his roommates grumble about campus boredom, he knows their current online habits will soon give way to the exclusive VIP clubs favored by the wealthy. Their displays of inherited status no longer pique his curiosity, for he is certain his consumption-based rise will soon eclipse their fortunes entirely. Shi Xiangbei steps forward to introduce himself as a timber merchant's son, while Ding Yu offers a cigarette, which he politely declines. Sensing the dorm's underlying tension, he launches into a calculated confession of his supposed flaws: sensitivity, low self-esteem, and inner demons to lower their guard. He frames his reading of Buddhist scriptures as a necessity for managing this inner turmoil, insisting that their shared living arrangement is a matter of fate meant to ensure their cooperation. The roommates are left baffled by this performance, struggling to reconcile his sudden display of fragility with the overwhelming presence he usually projects. Whispering amongst themselves, they debate whether he is genuinely vulnerable or merely playing a mischievous game. Unnerved by his spooky shift in demeanor, they decide that having him as their protector is the key to ruling the campus. Ding Yu begins to fantasize about his sister, Ding Xiang, but a sharp physical rebuke quickly silences such foolish suggestions. Despite having neutralized his roommates, he must now address the lingering questions of his peers while facing the growing suspicion of Fang Feifei and others. When confronted about his past behavior and the alleged theft of food, he firmly refutes the claims, maintaining his composure under the weight of their collective pressure. His hand accidentally brushes her clothing during the scuffle, prompting her to panic and apologize. Though she secretly hopes her display of concern will win him over, she interprets his stoicism as genuine kindness, while he brushes off the petty drama, already plotting to use the ongoing social chaos to tease Yu Yun with the nickname Little Cucumber. Devoted to his regimen, he maintains a strict routine of exercise and study, meticulously optimizing his daily schedule to ensure he accelerates his transformation into an elite through systematic consumption. His rising notoriety within the dorms inevitably draws unwanted attention from gossiping classmates, dragging him into the very social friction he had initially fought to avoid. Shi Xiangbei offers a casual farewell before departing for the National Day holiday, promising to return with local products from his hometown. Realizing the holiday break begins tomorrow, he recalls that a mandatory campus gathering is scheduled for all students remaining on site. Shi Luting attempts to de-escalate the brewing argument by proposing a formal vote, yet she watches with detachment as her classmates openly ignore her pleas for order. The bitter online spat perfectly mirrors the volatility of his previous life, forcing him to reflect on how status and wealth ruthlessly dictate the flow of social interactions. He observes that society is inherently complex and prone to conflict, noting that even the class monitor's poise fails to command respect when peers prioritize their own egos. Stepping in to resolve the tension, he skillfully builds goodwill among his peers, knowing that his growing popularity is the key to keeping the class's most influential figures in check. Despite his recent successes, a lingering sense of displacement haunts him as he grapples with the hollow reality of his former identity as a young master. A notification pings on his screen, offering thanks for his intervention and confirming the holiday itinerary for the safari park in Xinshanti. After he dismisses her offer to pay, she is furious at his rejection and vows revenge. Baffled by her volatile temper, he shifts his focus toward luring his online writing partner, Little Cucumber, into a conversation by aggressively tipping her accounts. He intends to probe for more information to verify if she is truly the author behind the screen, hoping to trap her into revealing her secret identity. As the holiday officially begins, he calls his parents to reassure them of his safety and success, promising that he will soon provide them with the life of luxury they deserve. He assures his parents that he has matured and is thriving, urging them to set aside their worries. Rejoining his classmates, he accepts their respectful greeting of Brother Lai as they gather for the day. While he brushes off concerns regarding his finances, he abruptly maneuvers a smaller companion away, leaving the others suspicious of what he is concealing. Feeling the suffocating heat and the uncomfortably tight proximity of the group, he demands to be released. With Lu Ji missing from the roster. The group readies themselves for the outing, and Shi Luqing takes the lead toward the subway station. Onlookers whisper about her appearance, noting that a year of dedicated fitness has refined her physique into something truly graceful. He smirks while remarking on her look, only to be cut off by a classmate demanding to know the subject of his gossip. As she urges the group to pick up the pace, she trusts that he will keep the peace, though she is suddenly hit by a jarring realization. Complaints about the crowded subway cars spark a heated clash when one man mocks another's wealth and the perceived cheapness of their student tickets. This verbal sparring quickly boils over into a physical challenge, leaving their peers stunned by the rapid escalation. An oppressive silence settles over the car as the two remain locked in a tense standoff. He wonders why everyone is so rattled by a routine argument, feeling trapped as he is pinned down by the girls clinging to his arms. Flustered by the intimacy of their grip, he demands they let go so he can handle the conflict personally. They refuse to release him, terrified that the volatile men might redirect their aggression toward him. Closing his eyes to center himself, he breaks free from their grasp with a sharp force that makes the girls cry out in pain. Walking away, he reflects on the irony that these same girls who ignored him in his previous life are now desperate to stay within his reach. A woman berates the bruised men for brawling over such trivial matters during their rare time off. Noticing a girl watching him with a strange intensity, he pauses as she begins to plead for his assistance. Suddenly, he doubles over in pain, clutching his stomach and making a frantic dash for the exit under the guise of an emergency. He offers a hasty farewell, leaving behind an incensed woman and the men who are still bickering over their scuffle. An authority figure swiftly orders the students to disperse, effectively killing the mood and cutting their outing short. Ignoring the fallout, Han Li receives a flood of texts asking for company, but he remains detached. Relieved he has finally broken his old habit of simping, he chooses to tune out the lingering drama to prioritize his own development, deciding to wait until Little Cucumber settles down before reaching out again. One woman grows visibly frustrated when he stops responding to her messages, her annoyance spiking as an urgent plea for help suddenly pings on her phone. She stares in shock at a message claiming he is trapped in a bathroom stall without paper, and she immediately begins plotting to weaponize his predicament. Demanding he beg for her assistance, she insists he call her an adorable fairy before she will even consider coming to his aid. Amidst these manipulative games, Han Li grapples with existential questions regarding the system's true nature and the weight of his own choices. His flirtatious insults only serve to enrage the woman further, while he contemplates the mysterious origins of the power that keeps his world in balance. Ignoring her anger, he turns to her with a sudden, nonchalant shift in demeanor, handing her an ice cream cone and urging her to eat it before it melts away. He operates on the belief that becoming an elite requires mastering emotional fluctuations, using calculated surprises and stark contrasts to control the dynamic rather than relying on insincere flattery. Insisting she take the treat he waited in line for, he claims he must rush back to the bathroom to handle his stomach issues. Recognizing her aloof sense of humor, he continues to toy with her, prompting her to question his hygiene even as she breaks into laughter at the sheer absurdity of the moment. Laughter ripples between them as he hands her a treat on a park bench, leaving her breathless from their playful sparring. Watching them, an observer notes that his effortless charm explains why girls like Yu Yun and Fang Feifei are drawn to him, while she admits that despite his annoying habits, his humor and excellence are hard to deny. A flicker of genuine emotion passes between them, leading her to decide that perhaps she should finally give him a chance. His annoyance at her sudden shift in demeanor is cut short by a system notification signaling he has gained the Complicate skill at level 1. He immediately sinks 180,000 experience points into leveling his skills to 3, recognizing that mastery in persuasion and acting is vital for his social maneuvering. When he follows up his ice cream offer with a suggestive comment about other flavors, she stares at him in stunned silence. The shock turns to irritation as she snaps at him to stop acting like a jerk and practice some self-restraint, forcing him to recoil from her outburst. In her frustration, she lunges forward only to stumble and collide with him, landing squarely in his arms. He steadies her, cautioning her to be careful in the crowd, while she grumbles about how much more rambunctious their classmates are compared to those of the academy. He sighs, noting that their group's penchant for fighting stems from a lack of capital. Unlike the wealthy students at the academy, his peers are restless because they lack the comfort to stay calm. Without that financial cushion, he explains, they remain trapped and volatile, necessitating a much more calculated approach to managing their social pressures. When she asks for advice on leading them effectively, he tells her to stop wasting energy on suppressing conflict and instead channel their focus toward meaningful tasks. Struck by his rare perspective and quiet inner strength, she resolves to prioritize her own growth and align her vision with his. She vows to one day surpass him, though her resolve wavers when he responds with a dismissive, playful tone that immediately grates on her nerves. Their moment is shattered by a new arrival, a girl with reddish hair who stops in her tracks, clearly shocked to find them together. She glares, wondering if he has been ignoring her messages simply because he was busy spending his time with the class monitor. The redhead approaches she, asking if she feels better, but she dismisses her past anger, claiming she no longer cares about the drama. She then turns to embrace Han, fretting over his silence, but he simply apologizes for missing her messages and suggests they visit the elephant exhibit to enjoy the day. A jolt of realization hits Han when he spots Fang nearby, just as the woman pulls him toward the same exhibit. Meanwhile, the other girls wander to an empty bench, their confusion growing until a phone begins to ring aloud. Answering the call, Han ignores the caller's frustration, claiming he is tied up with unfinished business before cheekily inviting her to come cheer him on. Later, a student expresses her desire to visit the zoo, but her companion suggests a trip to Sanya instead, prompting the girl to happily text about her excitement for winter break. Watching the message arrive, Han smiles at his phone, charmed by her cuteness, and decides it is finally time to rejoin the others. Arguments break out over where to eat, so Han suggests the snack street so everyone can pick their own meal. The group agrees, though one girl watches him with a sly smile. As they browse the market stalls, a companion wonders if he is always this generous after he treats the group to an expensive seafood feast. The redhead playfully tries to make him wear rabbit ears, but the others decide to abandon him. Han asks if they would rather shop without his company, refusing to leave him behind. She drags him to the bustling street, determined to seize the moment to move closer to him. They stop at a jewelry store where a specific necklace instantly catches Han's eye. She asks if it is a gift for her, admiring its beauty, and pulls him inside to get a better look. Memories of his past life surface, where he saved money to buy this exact piece for a girl who never wore it. Seeing her fall for the same item feels absurdly funny to him. He buys the necklace to finally close the chapter on his past as a simp, though he tries to stop her when she excitedly plans to flaunt it to Fang, hoping to avoid unnecessary trouble. A notification glows on his phone as the system rewards the purchase with a pet leash set, offering obedience and happiness bonuses. She asks for help with the clasp and Han assists her, sharing a quiet, intimate moment as he fastens the jewelry around her neck. With the clasp secured, he stands expressionless next to the blushing woman, only to notice Shilu Ting and the others staring through the glass partition in stunned silence. Watching him with visible caution, they seem to have misread the intimate gesture, but he dismisses the need for an explanation as he shifts his focus. His mind turns back to winning over the little cucumber, strategizing how to use his online persona to create a compelling contrast that will capture her heart. He soon reconnects with Shi and Fang, who mention they were just about to track him down, leading to a quick, casual agreement to head back together. As the group disperses in the twilight, he muses that he should avoid mixing with such troublesome peers to stay locked onto his own path. Recognizing that this gathering is merely a fleeting echo of his past life, he resolves to prioritize his career and wealth over these transient social ties. Back in his room, he finds a moment of relaxation that is cut short by a sudden contact request from his online business partner. Yu, overwhelmed and anxious after receiving an extravagant digital gift from a fan, tosses her phone aside in a sudden fit of emotion. He begins reading her latest chapters, critiquing her style and noting that while her voice is unique, her neglect of basic plot logic makes his guidance vital for their success. Crafting a message that balances praise with constructive feedback, he watches as she reacts with genuine surprise. Clearly touched that a fan actually engages with her work seriously, he smirks at the screen. Realizing that by positioning himself as an expert critic, he can easily guide her desperation for success while cementing his role as her most valuable ally. Leveraging his level 3 literary knowledge, he dissects her work, pointing out that her current luck in the industry is failing due to structural weaknesses. He critiques her prose, explaining that a lack of real-world experience makes her narratives feel hollow and impenetrable to the average reader. Stunned by the precision of his feedback, Yu Yun realizes she has finally found a true confidant and pleads for his mentorship. Agreeing to the arrangement, he officially initiates a partnership to refine her storytelling and boost her market potential. That night, Yu Yun hunches over her desk, urging her roommate Shilu Ting to head to sleep while she pours her energy into a new draft. Hanley monitors their progress, musing that while her inexperience is a significant hurdle, she should focus on her existing comfort zones to maintain momentum. When she casually mentions her proficiency in drafting intimate scenes, he is caught entirely off guard by this unexpected specialty. She confesses that she has little choice but to lean into such tropes, as she is writing strictly to secure her own livelihood. Observing Shilu Ting from afar, he concludes that her innate ambition makes professional writing the only viable path to avoid a mediocre life. Meanwhile, Yu Yun pitches a fresh concept, an overbearing CEO, and a Cinderella-like lead sparking a romance that immediately hits a wall of business-related conflict. As the plot darkens, the led's father is imprisoned by the male protagonist, forcing the heroine to shed her innocence and turn ruthless to exact her vengeance. The following morning, he heads to the library, wishing he possessed a speed-reading skill to conquer his dense stack of management textbooks. He spots Shilu Ting and helps her reach a high shelf, though she remains visibly skeptical of his sudden, intense interest in pursuing literary hobbies. Stepping out of the library, he leaves her behind, silently cementing a private vow to shield her from harm regardless of the cost. Back in the digital shadows, a collaborator reaches out, proposing that he take over the editing of her draft since her style struggles to capture the nuances of female-driven narratives. He counters with a choice between a steady monthly fee or a one-third cut of the profits, leaving her to weigh the deal against her outline. Yu Yun mulls over the terms, eventually gambling on the opportunity to secure her own income and finally prove she is more than just a supporting character in his shadow. He maneuvers the partnership, intending to feed her an outline built on trending tropes that will propel his system progress through this feminine-focused project. 3 days of silence pass before he finally sends the materials, a gesture that washes away her anxiety and leaves her breathless with relief. As her roommate departs, she settles into the quiet, diving into the synopsis without realizing the calculated intent hidden behind his every word. Her eyes widen in genuine shock when she notices the protagonist shares her own surname, forcing her to wonder if it is truly a coincidence. Despite her creeping skepticism, the narrative hooks her, particularly the way the male lead uses cold, clinical logic to systematically dismantle his rivals. She agrees to the partnership but insists on the profit share, prompting him to accept while sternly warning that he expects nothing less than perfection. He goads her into penning a more passionate sequence, a request she recognizes as a transparent attempt to satisfy his own curiosity. Yet she complies for the sake of the art. When he suggests the name Shay Mongting, the eerie similarity to her roommate's identity flusters her, fueling her suspicions about his true motives. He remains firm that the name carries a deeper meaning he cannot alter, leaving her to ponder the mystery behind his choice as she finally begins to draft. Yu Yun is overjoyed to learn she passed his test, agreeing to a 1/3 split of the proceeds as Han Lai waits in silence for her final review. He suggests a formal contract to solidify their partnership, leaving her stunned and deeply worried about the risks of exposing her personal information. To build trust, he offers her access to his author dashboard for transparency while keeping their financial payments informal, prompting her to finally agree to the collaboration under their online handles. Deciding to stockpile thousands of words before uploading, he steps out to take the trash after being cooped up in his room for days. A flash of combat skill briefly interrupts the stillness elsewhere before Chi and Ding return to the dorm, disappointed to find their roommate missing. Back in the room, Hanley startles them upon their return, causing the duo to embrace in fear as they realize they have been caught off guard once again. He demands to know why they are sitting in the dark. When they point to the switch, he invites them inside, genuinely curious why they are acting so strange. Qi points to the suspicious bag Han Li is carrying, jokingly asking if he stuffed their bully, Huang Wei, inside. But Han Li dismisses the absurdity and tells them to hurry up and clean. The roommates present him with fried chicken from their family's factory, insisting the meal is hygienic and safe to eat. Finding the snacks delicious, he is hit by a wave of nostalgia for his childhood and accepts their gifts with genuine gratitude. Watching them, he wonders if his earlier intimidation tactics were too effective, though he justifies his tough persona as a necessary measure to prevent further bullying from Huang Wei. When she asks why he is staring, he denies it and pivots to the status of their rival, concluding that as long as Huang Wei stays away, the tension remains manageable. Following their gesture, he suggests they treat their friends to a meal tomorrow, though they insist he stop the formalities and focus on getting some rest. At a bustling barbecue stall the next evening, he treats the group to dinner, mentally noting that he should soon invite Fang Feifei and the others to balance out the hospitality he has received. Their meal is interrupted when he spots Panji and Fududu at the market, and he greets them, discovering they have just returned to town and are currently looking for food. His roommates, eager for a chance to socialize with the campus beauty, enthusiastically wave them over to join their table. After a moment of shy hesitation, Panji asks if it is truly acceptable for them to crash the party, then smiles and agrees to pull up chairs. The table quickly fills with toasts, as he introduces Daodu as the finance class monitor and presents Pan Ji as the university's most celebrated beauty. While Qi Shangbei fumbles with his words in an awkward display, he offers a formal introduction, quietly resolving to keep any potential rivals in check. Both women recognize his name immediately, clearly shocked to realize he is the very student famously pursued by the two business school beauties who constantly compete to treat him. The conversation accelerates as his friends tease him about his growing popularity, forcing Panji to steer the topic toward ordering more food to break the tension. Everyone agrees to let him cover the bill. Despite Dodu's polite insistence on paying her share, he dismisses the formality as unnecessary for a casual gathering. Dudo offers a sincere thanks, though he questions why they insist on calling him Brother Lai, to which they playfully reply that it is simply the easiest way to address him. Throughout the meal, he observes Panji, realizing her grounded, confident personality is a stark contrast to the high and mighty princess rumors that had circulated about her. Deciding that direct observation is always superior to hearsay, he steers the group toward juice and soda instead of alcohol, prioritizing the comfort and safety of the women. As the night deepens, Panji and the others watch him with renewed interest, captivated by his composed presence. One companion remarks on the unique, galaxy-like irises of a girl, who explains she inherited them from her mother, prompting Lai to kindly reassure her that the features are beautiful. When she asks about his home in Dream City, he describes the mineral-rich landscape as unimpressive, leading her to concede that the environmental damage from mining is simply the cost of progress. A sudden nudge from a companion draws Lai's attention to a stunning classmate nearby. It is Shi Luting, who spots their group and approaches with a look of surprise. The table falls into a quiet discussion about the finance class monitors, noting that while Shi Luting leverages her student union role to climb the social ladder, Panji remains indifferent to school affairs, making their interaction rare. Shi Luting voices her irritation with the student union, revealing that she only secured the deputy head position because Panji flatly rejected the invitation. Seeing Lai seated with Panji, Shi Luting feels a surge of jealousy and questions his loyalty to their strategic partnership. While he struggles to navigate the awkward confrontation, Lai offers to order takeout to avoid the line, but she suspects his motives as his roommates scramble to clear space. While they shift to accommodate her, Qi Xingbei frets that they are in for trouble, though Li smugly assures the group he can handle the situation later. Shi Luting remains skeptical of his intentions, looking at him with deep doubt as she pointedly asks if she can join their meal. Sensing the brewing conflict between these two campus figures, Li claims their meal is nearly finished and suggests ordering fresh food for her instead to avoid a direct clash at the table. Bristling at the rejection, she turns and walks away. Lai and his companions watch her go, realizing she is genuinely angry and that he will need to console her later. Left alone, Shi Luting sees these with indignation, unable to believe that Li actually dared to reject her company after she had gone out of her way to join him. Humiliated by the dismissal, she brands him trash, her pride stinging from his blatant indifference. His roommates exchange puzzled looks, finally realizing she belongs to a different class, though they hesitate to press him further given the intimidating aura he projects. As she stalks off, the table erupts into a debate over her behavior, contrasting her pushy demeanor with the dedicated reputation she holds within the student council. One companion warns that appearances are deceptive, noting that her dominant personality frequently alienates those around her, making it hard to imagine anyone tolerating such a temper. Hanley shrugs, remarking that people often clash due to simple temperament differences, though he believes maturity eventually softens even the most rigid personalities. The group applauds his fatherly wisdom, but he quickly deflects the jab about his age, steering their attention back to the cooling food. Excusing himself to the restroom, he inadvertently overhears her venting into her phone, describing him as a cold-hearted tyrant. She complains to her online confidant, Ham, about this domineering CEO, oblivious that she is actually venting to the very man who begins composing a reply. Playing along with the persona, he offers comfort, while secretly plotting to weave her current frustrations directly into their novel to strengthen their digital bond. He entrusts his wallet to Qi Xingbei with instructions to settle the bill, then vanishes, leaving his friends bewildered by his sudden exit. Meanwhile, as she orders, she continues her rant to Ham, who encourages her to remain cautious in real life while suggesting she write the man into their story as a disposable villain. When she realizes she has lost her purse, he reappears to cover the check, offering her a healthier meal than the greasy takeout she originally chose, leaving her completely speechless. She offers a biting, sarcastic smile, clearly provoked by his gesture, but when he asks if fried rice causes acne, she snaps that her zits are purely from the irritation of dealing with him. Telling him to eat the meal himself, she storms off, leaving Han Lai to sweat as he realizes her anger is genuine, and she is fully committed to it. Her sudden behavioral shift strikes him as suspicious, especially since she usually ignores him despite the presence of Yu Yun and Fang Feifei, hinting at an intense, mysterious chemistry between her and Pan Ji. Checking his phone, he finds a message from an associate. She is already cooling down, texting that she is retreating to the dorm to write, deciding that staying angry is not worth the potential breakouts. The system rewards him with 2,000 experience points, leading him to reflect on her hypocrisy as she demands personal boundaries while frequently intruding on others, a behavior he warns will inevitably backfire. Reconnecting with his group, he finds Qi Xiangbei and Lu questioning why he returned with 2 bags of food, but a woman steps in to silence them, forbidding them from prying into his private affairs. The group soon parts ways, with the women bidding farewell to the others as they head off in different directions. Back at the dorm, his roommates invite him to karaoke with students from the Shanghai Theater Academy, though Han Li warns them they are likely being invited only to foot the bill. When they ask if his studies have granted him foresight, he dismisses the notion, bluntly insulting them as being merely stupid and rich for falling for such obvious social traps. Declining the invitation, he cites his need to study before the semester resumes, and even when they tempt him with the beauty of the girls attending, he remains unmoved, stating he has no interest in pursuing anyone. They tease him about his lack of interest, but he turns the tables, challenging them to pursue their own love lives, leading them to admit they lack the confidence and resources to handle such high-status women. Growing annoyed with the constant chatter, he tells them to leave him to his studies so he can maintain his focus. He pivots to his financial goals, reviewing the upcoming national stock trading competition. By reaching the final round, he can manage 1 million yuan in real funds, allowing him to leverage his level 3 finance skills for profit. Checking his online novel, he notes it has hit 100,000 words, ensuring steady future income, and regarding the high-status woman, he decides to remain detached, acknowledging he lacks the power to navigate her world yet. A maid serves him a meal, marking a quiet moment of consumption before he faces the next challenge. After the holiday ends, he returns to the lecture hall, where a student greets him and urges him to take more breaks, but he explains that his schedule balancing coursework and writing leaves no spare time. She teases him about a secret date with the campus belle, causing Han Lai to panic and try to silence her. Laughing off his reaction, she shifts to a serious tone, asking if he had a falling out with Shi Luting. revealing that both she and Yu Yun were visibly upset after hearing rumors about his date with the exchange student. Yu Yun presses him to reveal the truth, so he explains that he merely shared a table with she when she happened to cross their path. When she expresses disappointment at the lack of drama, he clarifies that he refuses to be just another of she's followers, knowing that keeping them together would only invite chaos. Dismissing her prying, he tries to return to his reading, yet he remains vigilant as he catches a glimpse of she watching him from across the room. As the bell signals the end of class, she offers to treat the group to a meal, prompting Han to suggest a vote to decide on hot pot. While they prepare to head out, he observes his classmates, calculating that his nonchalant attitude will force she to spiral over her own impulsive reactions from the day before. At the restaurant, they order a split broth hot pot, but she sits in a simmering silence, silently vowing to make him pay for the earlier snub. A group of strangers suddenly approaches their table to flirt, but the girls offer a cold rejection, making it clear they have no interest in outsiders. Irritated by their persistence, the girls demand that Han intervene, but the men refuse to budge until one of the women finally snaps and confronts them. Tensions flare as the intruders refuse to leave, aggressively insisting that the girls join their table despite the obvious lack of consent. Han arrives just in time to witness the men grabbing the girls' arms, stepping in immediately to shield them from the unwanted advances. When one of the men reaches out to pull a girl's hair, Han lunges forward, seizing the man's arm and demanding an explanation for his behavior. A sharp twist of the man's wrist sends him howling in pain as he realizes he has severely underestimated his opponent. Han retorts that if protecting his friends makes him seem crazy, then the man is far worse for harassing strangers, ultimately daring him to throw a punch. With a swift, decisive movement, he slams the assailant into the ground, neutralizing the threat in a single motion. He tells the onlookers that he was only defending himself after the man started the fight. Shi Luting watches him with a lingering concern, her eyes searching his face to determine if his declaration was truly sincere. Ignoring her gaze, he urges his companions to leave the restaurant immediately, knowing that remaining in the spotlight will only invite unwanted onlookers. As they depart, Yu Yun complains loudly about the thugs, while Shi Luting whispers for her to keep her voice down, all while secretly admiring the strength he displayed. He asks if she is all right, but she claims she is fine and watches him walk ahead. Frustrated by his cryptic behavior, Yu Yun wonders what could possibly be going through his mind. He glances back with a smug grin, asking if he looked cool when he landed that punch, teasingly comparing their situation to a romance novel trope that leaves her flustered and suspicious. He brushes off her reaction by explaining he simply wanted to test his system-provided skills, though he admits he chose restraint to ensure the safety of all three women, warning them that hot pot joints are dangerous conflict zones. He adds that the thugs are truly unlucky because the restaurant owner is a retired officer who will ensure they suffer the consequences. Yu Yun finds amusement in the thought of the delinquents being forced to call their parents, begrudgingly acknowledging his foresight in alerting the owner before the confrontation escalated. That night, she messages her online friend Ham to vent, admitting that despite her initial annoyance, she found him surprisingly attractive during the day's events. Han Li finds himself baffled by her sudden shift in attitude, while Ham teases her for seemingly developing feelings for the very man she once vowed to ignore. Back in the dorm, Shi Luting's roommate teases her about her mysterious late-night chats, forcing her to insist she is merely talking to an old friend. She soon escapes to the library, leaving her roommates to gossip about her increasingly strange behavior. Meanwhile, Yu Yun finds a surge of inspiration, feeling electrified when her web novel about a yandere CEO receives approval for serialization. She decides to name the male lead Han Lai Yi, reasoning that although the real Han Lai is irritating, his personality is the perfect blueprint for her work. The following day, however, their rhythm is broken when a girl interrupts the lecture to confront him about his constant use of his laptop. The professor, Teacher Wu, snaps at him for his distraction, calling him out during the investment management lecture. Whispers ripple through the room as classmates judge him for using a laptop, oblivious to the fact that he was simply catching up on the required real-time practice. He attempts to justify his focus by mentioning his competition prep, but he keeps his impressive 30% weekly return under wraps to avoid sounding like a liar. When Wu questions the utility of his work, he explains that he is using a demo account, arguing that consistent practice is the only way to internalize market patterns. Intrigued, Wu challenges him to define a mature trading pattern on the spot, offering a perfect grade and a permanent class exemption as the prize. The room falls silent with anticipation, while Shi Luting bites her lip, fearing that his potential failure will bring unwanted attention to her and Feng Feifei. He outlines a framework for trading based on time, technical skills, position management, risk control, and discipline. The professor nods in approval, and a wave of applause erupts as the students realize the depth of his sudden, sharp competence. He politely declines the offer of a grade boost, insisting that he prefers to earn his standing through his own merit. Undeterred, Wu insists on keeping the reward on the table, expressing his genuine faith in the student's latent potential. Seeing an opportunity to solidify his influence, he uses the remainder of the lecture to structure his own knowledge and attract potential partners to his cause. He boldly declares his intent to dominate the market. inviting any like-minded peers to align with him as he continues to hold court. As he breaks down his model, focusing on the nuances of trading timeframes, the room remains stunned by his professional clarity. He scans the class for hidden talent, then shifts his focus to trading skills, hammering home the point that buy and sell signals are useless without strict discipline. His mind wanders briefly to his progress with Yu-yun, his little cucumber, while he silently plots to recruit the rising stars Zheng Lei and Xia Hongwan. He identifies them as future industry leaders, calculating that their combined talents will give him a competitive advantage. He concludes that once a trading model is set, the final and most vital step is strict execution. He stresses that successful traders thrive through a disciplined model, whereas the reckless lose money because they lack common sense and determination, before thanking Teacher Wu for the platform to share his insights. He adds that their finance major provides a unique information advantage, urging his peers to respect market trends and grasp correct methodologies to secure their own success. Relying on critical thinking and habit rather than miraculous secrets, he notes, is the only way to stay ahead of the pack. Standing in the lecture hall, Han Lai waits for the reaction from the crowd, feeling a momentary anxious silence. Suddenly, the room erupts as students cheer and applaud Brother Lai for his impressive performance. He waves to the crowd, reflecting that this is exactly what it feels like to be a genius. Elsewhere, Panji and her friend discuss him, confirming they remember the boy from their dinner 2 days prior. They speculate that Huang Wei's sudden move out of the dorm was caused by bullying, and they suspect Han Li is behind it, given the newfound respect from Ding Yu and Qi Shangbei. The students note his low-key nature, laughing at how he remains unfazed even by Panji's beauty. Panji's friend reveals that he caused a stir in the neighboring finance class by bringing a laptop to trade stocks. They discuss how his explanation of a trading model was so compelling that it energized the entire class, effectively reversing the trend of students skipping lectures. Panji's friend admits his maturity and academic success are bound to lead him to great things, leaving Panji to reflect on his unique, magnetic aura. She watches him closely, noting his confident posture. Later, a student approaches him with notes she organized based on his advice, asking him to review them. He instructs her that while his strategy is sound, she must never go all in and must manage positions well to overcome her own greedy nature. Nearby, classmates bicker about whether he is just bullshitting, but they are silenced by the reality that his insights are proving effective. A student argues that one must think for themselves to avoid being harvested, though Teacher Wu defends Han Li's ideas as internally consistent and verifiable. Observing the teacher's excitement, students realize his confidence stems from his ability to refine his trading model through constant practice. This realization dawns on them. His self-assurance is not blind arrogance but a genuine strength capable of withstanding any test. They conclude that his charm lies in his domineering CEO-like control, a quality that drives the intense, complex dynamics of the characters in the stories they write. One student begrudgingly admits she admires him, realizing that despite his infuriating nature, his skills and confidence are not merely for show. She laments that while she wastes time being upset, he has already aced his courses and is poised to secure a spot at Tsinghua or Fudan. Realizing she is falling behind, she contemplates using yesterday's events as a bridge to reconcile with him. Suddenly, he finds himself surrounded by curious women demanding to know if he is a secret expert in the stock market. He clarifies that traditional methods like Wyckoff fail because they ignore the macroeconomic shifts currently unfolding, urging his peers to watch the upcoming competition leaders while he quietly maneuvers to become a legendary master himself. Retail investors in this era are simplistic and ripe for harvesting, a stark contrast to the future where the market will be saturated with skilled players, and he intends to exploit this current chaos for every penny. As new generation tycoons flood the market with capital, the volatility spikes, prompting Yu Yun, his online partner Little Cucumber, to push through the crowd to demand his specific trading strategies. Nearby, a girl fumes as she is completely ignored, while others grumble that the boy who was once an outcast has suddenly become the gravitational center for half the room. He observes the hypocrisy of his classmates and muses that his partner's flair for writing novels colors her view of him. Offering to walk her through his process one-on-one, he is quickly derailed when a woman teases him about wanting extra lessons, causing the social atmosphere to spiral into pure chaos. He wonders if she acts carefree online to hide her pride, realizing she only invests in him because she sees his potential for success. Deep in thought, she chats with a friend about the popular classmate, feeling a prickle of irritation at the sheer number of girls circling him. Her friend teases her about being jealous, suggesting that if she wants to stop feeling inferior, she simply needs to outshine him by excelling in their current writing collaboration. Finding inspiration in the challenge, she resolves to focus entirely on her writing to prove her worth, while he warns her that only a tight plot and compelling characters will guarantee their financial success. Noticing her newfound dedication, he realizes she possesses a sharp grasp of reality. Feeling genuinely excited to see how their collaboration will play out, she messages him, calling them two united veggies, and feeling a thrill as their book begins to gain real traction and momentum. Her plan to use their success to mock him for his past failures is cut short, however, when a message from him delivers sudden bad news regarding their writing schedule. Explaining that the upcoming stock trading competition will demand his full attention, he coolly tasks her with writing the passionate scenes of their novel for 40 RMB per 1,000 characters. Although she attempts to push back and negotiate a higher rate, she ultimately accepts the burden, determined to live up to Hammy's trust and prove her professional worth. He smiles, satisfied that by offloading the writing, he has successfully reduced his own stress while securing her lasting gratitude. Struggling to depict an imprisonment scene, Yoo-yeon and Han-li panic over their shared lack of experience, eventually deciding to scour the internet to bridge their knowledge gap. He remembers his system reward package, hoping to leverage its contents as he continues his relentless push to upgrade his attributes and ascend to elite status. Offering to carry a package for Shi Lu-ting, he is met with indignation as she bristles at his comment about her strength, mockingly accepting his sarcastic claim of concern. Stumbling upon the box in the trash, she blushes to see her own name paired with the protagonist on the shipping label, clearly thrilled by the gesture. He teases her about her reaction, smugly reminding her that he went through the trouble of using a local courier service just to ensure the gift arrived safely. Shortly after, she approaches him to challenge his core belief that one can consistently extract profit from the volatile stock market. The cynical argument that the market is merely a rigged gambling den for institutions leaves him surprised, given that she is a finance student. He corrects her perspective, explaining that the market functions on internal logic and trend analysis rather than pure luck, stressing the necessity of discipline in managing gains and losses, warning her that the era of rampant, unchecked banking is ending due to strict regulations like Article 182. He cautions her against falling for deceptive get-rich-quick schemes. He confesses his own motivations, noting that while his past life was defined by mediocrity, he now uses the system to strive for an extraordinary existence through constant consumption. Encouraging her to pursue her own ambitions, he playfully offers to act as her mentor, suggesting she pay for his breakfast in exchange for his professional guidance. Returning to find their classmates waiting, the pair faces immediate, prying questions regarding why they arrived together. As they settle in, she reflects on their conversation, wondering if her own aspirations are truly achievable as he once again urges her to chase her dreams. She admits her confusion, so he offers to mentor her, though she refuses the title and insists on buying him breakfast instead. A classmate calls out to them, and she explains they met while jogging, adding that Fang Feifei is still asleep. He teases her about the invitation, irritating her, but he quickly placates her by agreeing with her complaints as they head to eat. Nearby, an observer wonders if the hot pot incident finally caused her to stop giving him the cold shoulder. As they debate meal options, the observer remains shocked, questioning why she would choose to treat him to a meal at all. She denies caring about him, claiming she is merely critiquing his behavior. While the confused observer watches them dine together, feeding him a meatball, she boasts that her efforts outshined Fang Feifei's, while the observer fears her involvement will defeat any other rivals. He reflects on Yoo-yeon's desperate attempts to please others, but the moment is interrupted when a cheerful girl greets them in the cafeteria. The women exchange morning greetings, though the atmosphere shifts abruptly as a man nearby issues a menacing threat. The man declares that his opponent is going to die today, while the rest of the room continues eating in silence. She asks him about the other beauty who usually accompanies him, so he explains Fang Feifei is still sleeping after their morning run. Checking the time, he notes they are on schedule, and mentions the hall is currently filled with freshmen who admire Panja. The observer feels jealous of their chemistry, while she commands him to stop talking and focus on eating since she is paying. Wondering if this is a declaration of sovereignty, the observer watches as he laughs and agrees to follow her rules. She teases him for being indecisive, leading him to declare that he always supports whoever pays the bill to remain fair. Accused of being shameless, he smugly offers her VIP-level treatment, though she laments that her allowance is too small for such luxuries. Shi Lu-ting dismisses the idea of a fancy meal, claiming her diet is already strictly managed. But Han Li suggests they head to Wangjiang Pavilion, noting that a high-end atmosphere provides a far better backdrop for their business discussion. Pan jokingly warns him not to get any ideas about proposals, yet he insists the venue is merely for fine dining, regardless of its reputation as a local hotspot for romantic commitments. While he reassures her that any five-star establishment would do, Yoo-yeon suddenly gasps, finally grasping the weight of the conversation taking place between them. She feels overwhelmed by Panji and Han Li's closeness, so she tries to change the subject by commenting on the state of their own affairs. She abruptly points to the package on the table, and when Shi Lu-ting admits it is a lightweight item sent by a friend, Yoo-yeon aggressively suggests it must be from that mysterious person she talks to every night. Furious, Shi Lu-ting calls her a bastard and demands to know why she is sabotaging their alliance by airing such personal business in public, though others worry that opening the gift might humiliate a secret admirer. She snaps that she never accepts gifts from anyone in that category. As the surrounding students begin to gossip about the two beauties, she flusteredly maintains that the box contains simple jewelry she asked a friend to pick up for her. Hanli hands the box to a surprised girl, hoping his display of generosity will keep the contents hidden, but Shi Lu-ting frantically tries to block them, intending to reclaim it later in private. Yoo-yeon catches her off guard, producing an eyebrow razor to slice through the packaging despite her desperate attempts to keep it sealed. The reveal leaves the entire table stunned into silence, as the box contains only a collar and a rope, causing Shi Lu-ting to spiral into a full-blown panic. She is shocked to receive a rope and collar, asking how such an item was sent, while trying to give the leash to her friend who refuses it. Panji suddenly recognizes the collar as being identical to one she uses for her own dog, and her face flushes as she realizes exactly what the gift implies. A bystander watches in horror, now convinced that Shi Luting harbors some dark, secret fetish, while others around them whisper in total shock. Desperate to stop her world from collapsing, she begs Yu Yun to believe that her romantic interests are strictly traditional, despite the damning evidence sitting on the table. The group erupts into a heated debate over her preferences, while onlookers eagerly gossip about the scene. Satisfied that the spectacle was well worth the trip to the cafeteria, Yu Yun observes the chaos with a smirk, whispering that she appreciates the monitor's true colors before turning to leave for class. Han Li chuckles at the absurdity of the scene, finding the girls' tangled dynamic a source of genuine entertainment. When Shi Luting lashes out to slap him, her hand only strikes his firm arm, leaving her wincing in pain and humiliation. Overwhelmed by his cool silence and Panji's watchful gaze, she finally breaks down, sobbing as Shi Luting moves in to offer a hollow comfort. Triumphant that a rival's composure has shattered, Shi Luting leans in to ask Han Li if he could ever truly desire someone so fragile. He only smirks at her cattiness, reaching out to pat the weeping girl's head as he waves off the incident as a trivial misunderstanding. Offering a tissue and the promise of ice cream, he instructs Yu Yun to stay close and guard her while he steps away to handle the crowd. Watching him go, Yu Yun realizes with a jolt that his earlier indifference toward the monitor was merely a calculated provocation. The entire ordeal serves his plan to erode her pride, forcing her to abandon her mask and reveal her deepest insecurities. As he walks, a system notification chimes, awarding him a sweet toffee of obedience designed to soften a target's resolve. He signals for Yu Yun to head to class, opting to remain behind to soothe the distraught Shi Luting himself. Though she reflexively swats his ice cream away, he persists, using the treat as a tactical opening to dismantle her defenses. He leans in close, whispering that he will solve her public embarrassment if she simply takes a bite. Tearfully yielding to his pressure, she accepts the sweet, signaling her surrender and her need for his help. He looks down at her, struck by the irony that the woman who once manipulated him in a previous life is now completely under his thumb. She wipes her eyes, demanding that he honor his word and explain exactly how she can salvage her reputation. He suggests that she simply own her niche hobby publicly, arguing that total transparency is the only way to strip away the power others hold over her reputation. Biting his arm in a sudden burst of frustration, she calls him completely unreliable for trying to force her into such a vulnerable position. Undeterred, he advises her that if she is already the target of ridicule, she should adopt a cold, imposing persona to regain the upper hand. He coolly notes that he expects compensation for his guidance, confident that the results will be satisfactory. Teasing her about her natural aura of authority, he provokes a heated debate regarding whether her strict disciplinary methods are actually effective. Seeing her give up on defending herself, he shifts his tone to offer gentle comfort, urging her to stop worrying and start walking her own path. Offering her a piece of candy to soften the mood, he watches as she reluctantly accepts, admitting that he is surprisingly reliable despite his usual antics. He mockingly questions how gullible she is before leaning in closer, wanting to test the potent effects of the sweet treat for himself. Startled by his sudden forwardness, she briefly rationalizes the intimacy as necessary research for her novel writing before snapping back to her senses. She tells him to stop trying to fool her and walks away, ignoring his request to continue their discussion. He watches her go with a faint smile, acknowledging that while maneuvering her is a difficult game, planting this seed of influence is a valuable long-term strategy. Reflecting on his rising status, he realizes that his growing value forces others to reveal their softer sides, proving that constant self-improvement is the key to preferential treatment. Returning to his desk, he analyzes the 2014 bull market and observes how rapid technological shifts are making even retail investors increasingly sophisticated. Because his capital is currently limited, he decides to keep refining his trading system rather than recklessly rushing into the current market frenzy. His roommate suddenly bursts into the room, breathlessly announcing that a major incident has rocked the campus while he was away. The news leaves him stunned. A shocking rumor is spreading that Shi Luting went directly to Panji to confess her feelings. This revelation forces him to contemplate the power of original sin, realizing that whoever wields this authority holds the key to the ultimate throne, even as he weighs the consequences of such influence. His roommates report that Shi Luting confessed to Panja earlier, noting that she demanded everyone's attention when she arrived at the classroom. Witnesses report that she walked straight up to Panji and, without a second of hesitation, grabbed her hand and pulled her into a sudden embrace, ignoring the blush as Panji pushed her away with a mischievous smile. Enli wonders what gift could have triggered such a display, realizing she is acting with ruthless efficiency. By being this direct, she claims her prize while maneuvering rivals into a passive position, effectively using social leverage to upgrade her own status. Though his roommates press for more details, he dismisses the gossip and heads toward the cafeteria, telling them he has class to attend to avoid further questions about the chaotic dynamics unfolding around him. Outside, Fang Feifei rushes to find him, clearly energized by the news of the confession and praising her friend for finally shedding her old persona to be true to herself. She teases him by imagining how beautiful it would be if two such grand beauties were to become a couple. leaving him visibly uncomfortable as he tries to process the absurdity. Curious about why she has grown so close to Shi Luting, he is caught off guard when she grabs his arm, offering to try the same intimate gestures on him, provided he stays out of her complicated relationship. Horrified, he realizes these tactics are being used on everyone. When a passerby assumes they are dating, she quickly friend-zones him, leaving him dismayed to find himself relegated to the role of a mere sister. She invites him to eat, but he remains preoccupied by how Shi Luting has captured the attention of everyone. With Yu Yun still in the mix, he struggles to maintain his composure as the social landscape spirals beyond his control. Amid the mounting confusion, he recalls his secondary mastermind account and finds himself genuinely surprised when a notification labels him as brother. Settling in at his computer, he reflects on the humiliating scene with Elysian eyebrow raiser, fully aware that Yu Yun orchestrated the public spectacle. The realization hits him that he is the male god discussed in these threads, and he feels a strange, flustered thrill at how the toffee he gave her has clearly bent her will. Though he cannot reveal his true identity, he decides to double down on his ham persona to steer the chaos, suspecting Yu Yun deliberately baited him into this trending drama. After sending a message that receives no immediate reply, he watches as the scandalous rumors about the two women dominate the school's social feeds. He weighs the gossip surrounding Panjae and finds the prospect that Cucumber might actually use that provocative set on her quite exhilarating. Back in the lecture hall, he is caught in a pincer movement as both girls call out to him simultaneously, demanding his immediate attention. Amused by the mounting pressure, he turns to Shi Luting and asks what urgent matter could possibly warrant such a frantic summons. She explains that Lu Hong is gunning for her position as class monitor, though Han Li simply scoffs, dismissing the threats as nothing more than empty bluster. Pointing out that Lu Hong only acts out to gain favor with the exchange department, he advises her to buy off Mr. Liu with a few packs of cigarettes to settle the score. She winces at the cost of 2 packs of Zhonghua, yet she ultimately agrees to his strategy to avoid further scrutiny from the faculty. He teases her for being so easily swayed by the toffee's lingering effects, sparking a brief heated bicker over their social standing before they both tacitly agree to drop the subject. She bristles at his dismissal, deciding that if he refuses to intervene, she will stop worrying about her reputation and act with total boldness. Asserting that she needs this strategy to handle Panji, she demands his support, but he merely wishes her luck and tells her to find someone else if she fails. He maintains that following one's heart is perfectly natural, provided those actions do not infringe upon others. When she labels his advice as manipulative, he bristles with indignation and insists he was being perfectly sincere, ultimately choosing not to waste points on such a dubious skill. Turning back to his business, he notes the improved metrics for their CEO's Goddess project and begins discussing how to allocate the incoming returns. By October 17th, he is caught off guard when his instigation skill spontaneously hits level 2, leaving him puzzled as to when he actually provoked anyone. Meanwhile, a fan celebrates the web novel's success, prompting her to clarify to her correspondent that her admiration for the author and her feelings for her male god are entirely separate matters. The contact probes her progress, and she proudly credits her male god for solving her recent crisis, leading to a blunt suggestion that she stop rambling and finally pursue him. He gains a surge of experience points while she panics at the very thought of such a pursuit, suddenly regretting her fake lesbian persona now that she actually wants a man. Fearing he might take her act at face value, she decides to invite him out this weekend to test the waters. Later, he spots her on the track and teasingly asks if her athletic outfit implies a date with Panjuro. She denies it, noting Panji is away, and instead invites him to a new escape room to resolve their outstanding issues, though he suggests she bring Fang Feifei along instead. He eventually agrees to the outing, but demands tuition for his ongoing tutoring, which she covers by offering to pay for his ticket and lunch. As they walk together, he probes her true intentions for the date, leaving her internally panicked and struggling to hide her nerves. She fights to maintain her composure while he offers mocking relationship advice, eventually causing her to snap at him in pure frustration. He questions her habitual use of physical violence just as they arrive at the escape room, where a masked figure stands waiting to invite them inside. Inside the dimly lit attraction, Han Li clicks on a flashlight to lead Shi Luting, banking on the mounting tension to break down her defenses. He reaches out to steady her shoulder in the pitch black, only for her to let out a piercing shriek as a mysterious blue light suddenly pulses from her chest. Attempting to pivot to safer territory, he asks her to analyze a stock trend, but she remains too frazzled by the jump scares and her own academic struggles to focus on finance. He notes that while raw talent dictates efficiency, she could easily bridge the gap with hard work by entering the upcoming stock trading competition. The beam of her light flickers and dies just as a man wielding a chainsaw lunges from the shadows, leaving her paralyzed by the sudden, visceral threat. Once they escape, he mocks her for her pathetic cowardice during the game. While she urgently presses him for more details on the November trading competition, he questions how she could be so oblivious as the class monitor, leading her to suspect he is intentionally putting distance between them. Observing that her recent drama with Panji has caused enough headaches already, he refuses to let her use him as a buffer to deflect the fallout. He excuses himself to go back to his books, while Shi Luting insists she never intended to use him as a shield. Realizing the harassment she and Panji face makes everyone a target, She decides to track down Panji instead to settle the score. Meanwhile, Panjae pings him for lunch, completely unaware that he is already exhausted by her constant attempts to drag him into her social theater. He receives a WeChat request from her and immediately realizes she intends to use him as a pawn to spite her rival. She schemes to manipulate him into handling the situation with Shiluting, all while baiting him with an invitation to a high-end Japanese restaurant. Flatly declining the offer under the guise of being busy, he leaves her seething with jealousy and suspicious of who exactly accompanied him to the escape room. Shiluting approaches Panji after being stood up, causing the beauty to suspect Han Li is the one who rejected her and is now intentionally avoiding them to sidestep their hidden motives. Panjae receives an invitation to an escape room, yet she finds the situation with the boy far more intriguing, watching him closely as she senses a distinct shift in his usual patterns. Han Li shivers, intuitively guessing the monitor is venting about him, and worries that such social distractions might derail their shared writing project when he must remain focused on his own goals. A notification confirms a payment as his editor, Xiao Qilin, suggests selling the novel's copyright, leaving him momentarily stunned by the prospect of earning a couple of million yuan. Weighing the market trends for modern versus ancient dramas, he decides to spend his 170,000 experience points to prioritize his writing skill, aiming for level 4 to stay ahead of the competition. Recognizing that Little Cucumber's polish is vital to the book's success, he commits to the upgrade, successfully securing his professional edge in the industry. Later, he meets Panji at Wang Baohe, where she orders an elaborate crab feast, specifically requesting large males to match the seasonal delicacy. She presses him on his previous rejections, admitting she has been trying to get him out since October, and he realizes that refusing a third time would permanently sour their connection. He cites the upcoming stock trading competition as his excuse for being busy, effectively shielding his true intentions behind his ongoing financial ambitions. He compliments her presence, though she dismisses it as a standard attempt to provide emotional value. He struggles to read her true intentions, realizing his level 3 psychology is insufficient, and resolves to gather more data through further interactions to understand her better. As they eat, he reflects on the social divide, realizing these dining habits and subtle nuances signify the deeper barriers between their respective circles. Panjae suddenly stops him from eating so she can photograph the meal for social media, and he watches her suspiciously, convinced her constant posting is part of a calculated conspiracy. Checking her post, he sees she has deliberately tagged him, realizing he has been trapped. By making their lunch public, she has successfully dragged him into her social sphere. She offers him a piece of her meal, maintaining a composed, friendly facade as the trap firmly closes around him. Caught in the public tagging, his irritation spikes when he spots Nana and her friends at the restaurant, only to realize he has stumbled upon her father, Uncle Pan, and Uncle Jang dining together. Uncle Pan explains they are here for crab paste and asks Nana to keep their drinking a secret from her mother, confident she will not betray his confidence. Stepping forward, Han Li introduces himself as a university classmate of Nana, earning a friendly, if inquisitive, reception from her father. The older man notes that his daughter rarely dines alone with boys, but tells Han Li not to worry about formalities as long as their personalities click. Testing Han Li's grip with a firm handshake, Uncle Pen bluntly criticizes his thin frame and wonders if the school cafeteria food is failing him. Han Li resolves to rely on his own strength while the man praises his sharp eyes, dismissing other young men as soft and sissy. As the older men continue their debate, Nana tries to end the awkward encounter, but Uncle Pan insists on covering the tab for the student's entire meal. He sternly forbids Han Li from secretly paying while privately telling his associates that he appreciates the boy's polite nature. Back at their table, Han Li and Nana share a moment of disbelief, with Nana jokingly suggesting they should just run away. He wonders about the men's backgrounds after his accidental slip of the tongue, prompting Nana to challenge him to call her father Dad to his face. Han Li playfully calls her bluff, leading an annoyed Nana to question his professional ethics, though she eventually concedes his point. She reveals that Uncle Zhang is the humanities principal and her father is Uncle Pan, though he remains entirely disconnected from school affairs. When Han Li questions why she didn't study abroad, Nana explains that she prefers staying near her mother and finds university status irrelevant. He reflects that business elites value practical cultivation over degrees, lamenting that Nana's intelligence is being wasted by social pressure to simply marry. Han Li arrives, feigning hurt for not being invited to the feast, only to freeze at the sight of Panji in a close embrace with another woman. She immediately turns on her friend, accusing her of stalking her social media to stage this encounter. He suddenly grasps why Uncle Pan is so keen on him. The man is terrified his daughter is turning toward women after witnessing her intimacy with Shi Luting, the girl known online as Little Cucumber, and now views him as the perfect candidate to secure his family line. An associate approaches to announce that Uncle Pan wishes to speak with him, leaving Panji puzzled by her father's sudden interest while Han Li realizes the true gravity of the situation. Elsewhere, a man whispers to the principal about the rumors of a girl confessing to Panji, prompting a panicked Uncle Pan to fear his daughter's romantic path will ruin his business succession, leaving him desperate for her to marry a capable man instead. Contemplating his position, Han Wei understands that Uncle Pan is vetting him as a potential son-in-law, a rare social ladder he decides to climb without hesitation. He steps into the private room to meet the older man, carrying a bottle of wine as a calculated gesture, knowing that showing up empty-handed would be a fatal mistake. Offering a respectful toast, he meticulously serves the elders first, demonstrating the discipline and refinement of an elite candidate worthy of their trust. Uncle Pan and his colleagues watch him with growing approval, whispering to each other that such poise must surely come from a prestigious, well-bred family. When asked if he is a local, Han Li explains he is a student from Dream City, intentionally living in the dorms to maintain a disciplined focus on his academic growth. Uncle Pan urges him to spend more time with his daughter, but Han Li politely deflects, citing a demanding self-study schedule and noting that Pan Ji is currently occupied with Shi Lu Ting. Upon hearing that his daughter is with her female companion, Uncle Pan immediately commands Han Li to go back to the table and look after her. He bows and leaves the men to their drinks, but as he reaches the exit, the atmosphere in the restaurant abruptly turns chaotic. Uncle Pan suddenly collapses in distress, fully convinced that the rumors are true, and ignores all attempts to restrain him as he rushes downstairs to confront the pair himself. Two men attempt to restrain him, fearing a public spectacle. But the elder remains gripped by a furious desperation to investigate the scene himself. Pan Ji is startled by Han Li's sudden appearance. He explains her father asked him to watch over her, yet the dark-haired woman dismisses him, insisting only she can care for her friend while mocking him for mooching a free meal. When he asks why she is there, she claims she just wanted crab, while he silently worries about her motives. He recounts how Pansek's attempt to frame him backfired upon her father's arrival, prompting Shi Lu Ting to appear and mock her for digging her own grave, though she defiantly insists on paying with her own allowance. She continues to berate him for leeching off campus beauties, but Pan Ji steps in to defend him, clarifying that she invited him personally because they enjoy each other's company and share a love for quality food. Observing this provocative exchange, Han Li wishes to be excluded from their schemes and jokingly toasts them, wishing the pair 100 years of happiness while lamenting his role as an awkward third wheel. The woman condescendingly accepts his toast, telling him to know his place while nearby, a distressed Uncle Pan accidentally announces to his companions that he and his daughter are going on a date, sparking immediate panic. Han Li worries about being discovered as the father watches them, but suddenly, a hand slams onto the table, leaving a bystander shocked and fearing the elder might be suffering from high blood pressure. The group eats until Panja confronts the person opposite her, asking how they intend to retaliate for their previous actions. Han Li asks if they are trying to kill two birds with one stone to force a harmonious relationship. While from afar, Uncle Pan feels relieved seeing his daughter engage with a man, even if the young people's strange idioms baffle him. The woman admits to having genuine feelings for Han Li, triggering a fierce warning from Panji, who is then provoked by the suggestion that men are unnecessary and that they could even involve Feng Fei Fei in their dynamic. Uncle Pan is deeply shocked to learn his daughter is in a relationship with a woman, lamenting the situation as a tragedy while struggling to process the news. Shifting his focus, he decides that if Han Li can steer her back to the right path, he will overlook the drama. While the women continue to argue about Feng Fei, noting she would marry him tomorrow if asked, the woman confronts the group about their arrogance, while another warns Han Li to take Feng Fei away immediately to avoid the fallout from the Shi Lu Ting incident. Watching the group from the shadows, Uncle Pan grows suspicious, wondering if Panji is merely using Han Li as a prop to maintain her facade, and resolves to intervene before his daughter drifts further off course. Panji tries to pull away from his intense scrutiny, but her father strides over to the table, pointedly announcing he came down specifically to vet the young man sitting with them. Shi Lu Ting offers a polite greeting, only to be met with a barrage of intrusive questions about her family background and health that instantly drains the air from the room. Han Li watches the stifling interrogation with a faint, amused smile, noting the confusion of those around him who cannot grasp why the elder is acting so uncharacteristically. Before heading out, Uncle Pan pulls Han Li aside to offer rare praise for his character and Shi Lu Ting's, even extending an open invitation to visit his home, leaving Han Li feeling uneasy about the sudden familiarity. Baffled by the strange display of favoritism, Panji questions what secret influence the boy has managed to exert in just 2 meetings, while Han Le keeps his composure and remains silent. She dismisses her father's endorsement as irrelevant, yet she makes a silent vow to dig into Han Li's background and uncover the root of his mysterious appeal. Returning to the dorm later that night, Han Lai finds his roommates huddled in a gloomy, depressed silence, and he immediately demands to know what has cast such a pall over the room. They reveal that a classmate named Dan Zihao has been aggressively prying into Han Li's personal life all day, though they remain clueless about his specific motives. A realization strikes Han Lai. Zihao is the 3rd wealthiest student in the International Exchange Department and happens to be Panji's most relentless pursuer. He concludes that this unwanted attention is a direct consequence of his association with Panji, and he relegates the memory of Huang Wei to a minor nuisance compared to this new, more substantial adversary. His roommates warn him that Zihao wields significant influence, fearing the tension will inevitably erupt into physical violence. Yet Han Li remains entirely unmoved, leaving them to speculate on his true resolve. Once his roommates retreat, Han Li offers a calm reassurance that as long as they stand with him, they have nothing to fear from any outside interference. Despite his confidence, one roommate lingers, anxious and hoping that the brewing confrontation with Zihao does not escalate into a chaotic full-scale brawl. Shifting his focus, Han Li checks in with Little Cucumber, discovering that paying her salary triggers his consumer system and grants him valuable experience points, confirming that building a company is the perfect engine for his climb to level 5. Yu Yun is ecstatic at the payment, and Han Li pushes her to think bigger. Fully aware that as their manuscript fees climb, so too will his own power. Yu Yun is aghast to learn that Panjae drops 3,000 yuan on a single meal, sustained by a monthly allowance of 100,000. Han Lei laughs off her shock, prompting her to vow that she will one day splash cash with that same casual indifference. He cruelly reminds her that she cannot match such generational wealth, leaving her deflated as she weighs her modest annual earnings against that staggering monthly figure. When he suggests she simply leverage her beauty instead, she is left speechless by his bluntness. The following day, Si Luting makes an entrance that stops the students in their tracks. Every eye in the room is captivated by the effortless elegance she commands. Han Li settles into Teacher Wu's lecture, remarking that the material is actually quite engaging. She greets him with an uncharacteristic warmth, only to have him mock her uncommonly cheerful mood. He teases her about Panji, though he privately notes that her refined style is a sight to behold. Flustered by his blatant indifference toward her efforts, she watches as he pivots to address the rest of the class. Teacher Wu then announces a national stock trading competition sponsored by Tengjun Finance, open to every student. The event spans 3 grueling rounds, dangling real capital of 300,000 yuan as a carrot, followed by a 1 million yuan pot for the finals. Students react to the 1 million prize, while Han Li plans to use the legal profit sharing to fund his system upgrades. The professor emphasizes the prestige awaiting the top 10, urging everyone to seize the chance for real-world experience. He sweetens the deal by promising an exemption from final exams for those who excel in the trading simulation. Shi Luting immediately commits to the challenge, but as she and a peer invite Han Li to register, he questions if they have the necessary resolve. Han Li recalls that in his past life, Shi Luting lost 77% of her value during her disastrous trading performance. Despite those heavy losses, she remained stubbornly undeterred, cementing her reputation as the most resilient leak in the finance class. As the registration deadline nears, classmates buzz with excitement, hoping that a high ranking will finally give them the social leverage to swagger around campus. Shi Luting and Yu Yun interrupt his thoughts, pressing him to help them build a winning trading model, while others clamor for him to prove his true worth. Watching the group from afar, Dan Zihao clenches his fists in frustration, bitter that every conversation revolves around his rival before the contest even begins. Han Li ignores the hostility, reflecting on how, in his previous life, this same event served as the spark that first bonded Duan Xiaoyi and Fang Feifei. He notes that while future leaders like Zheng Lei and Xia Hongwan would eventually fail to reach the live rounds, their respectable 20% returns were enough to attract the attention of the school's beauties. Determined to shatter those mediocre benchmarks, he resolves to showcase his own capabilities, prompting Shi Luting to aggressively challenge him to prove he can handle the pressure. Wary of his growing popularity, she remains suspicious of his motives, so he proposes a wager on who can achieve the higher rate of return to settle the score. She initially refuses, claiming to be a mere novice compared to an expert like him, but classmates mockingly intervene, demanding he give her a 20-point handicap to level the playing field. Accepting the terms, he grants her the 20% advantage, and she defiantly agrees, confident that this cushion makes it impossible for her to lose. He offers a knowing smile, already calculating how to crush her strategy, while the crowd roars, demanding they set high stakes for the match. The wager is simple. If he wins, she must grant him one unconditional favor, a demand that leaves her surprised and demanding to know his hidden intentions. Dismissing her concerns as a trivial thought, he brushes off her annoyance, even as she insists that his personal dating life is absolutely none of his business. She counters with her own stake, decreeing that if he loses, he is forbidden from dating anyone for his entire 4 years of college. Though the classmates gasp at such an extreme condition, they demand a pinky promise to seal the deal, and as their fingers interlock, Han Li realizes she has only succeeded in digging her own grave. Rather than spoon-feeding his peers, Han Li explains that he lacks the practical experience to dictate their moves, urging them to test their own strategies so he can critique their errors later. The students thank him, and Shi Luting asks to reserve a seat at his next lecture, prompting Han Li to suggest a group chat, only to realize they have yet to exchange contact details. After the session, the group proposes a spicy hot pot dinner, and Han Li, finished with his tasks, encourages them to funnel all future inquiries into their newly formed chat. When a girl asks him to stay for a stroll, he politely declines, leading her to assume he is merely maintaining distance to prevent public misunderstandings regarding their relationship. She offers him gentle emotional support, but Han Li remains cynical, knowing her kindness is rooted in the false assumption that he hails from a wealthy, influential dynasty. He fears that if the truth of his background surfaced, Yu Yun and the others would turn on him, reaffirming his belief that promises are empty and only time can navigate such social traps. Misinterpreting his coldness as the remnants of a past heartbreak, the student becomes even more determined to pursue him, leaving Han Li baffled by her escalating excitement despite his rejection. He glances at his status screen to find his tug ability has mysteriously leveled up to 2. a development that only adds to his growing confusion. Meanwhile, Yu Yun is thrown into shock by a post from Ham Han Lee's writing partner, who claims to be a charming middle-aged man. After Han Lee explains it is merely a strategy to build hype, she apologizes, vowing to live up to the attention at future signings. On November 11th, Han Lee attends a lecture where the professor permits laptop usage, though he detects a patronizing tone, as if the older generation is watching their market efforts with detached amusement. As the national trading competition kicks off, Han Lee monitors the chat, watching his classmates gossip about Shi Luting's bold early market entry, yet he remains unshaken, confident that even with a 100-point handicap, they cannot touch his strategy. Shi Luting shares her analysis of oversold rebounds, drawing immediate praise and a wave of followers. Yet Han Lee merely watches the blatant flattery, knowing just how easily they are swayed by her confident tone. She pings him for a stock picks, but he senses a test rather than a genuine request for guidance. Mockery erupts from Duan and Luo, who ridicule his aggressive all-in approach while others express genuine alarm at his volatility. Ignoring the noise, he remains unmoved even as Yu and Shi join the fray to demand his logical reasoning. He picks apart Shi's strategy, pointing out that his chosen stock, Lian Xin, is a high-turnover asset with a 90% probability of success. Silence descends upon the chat once he confidently predicts a daily limit, leaving him to briefly wonder if his connection has dropped. Zheng and the others start showering him with praise, yet he immediately distances himself, refusing to bear responsibility for their potential losses. Still not convinced, she openly doubts that his pick can truly outshine her own carefully selected portfolio. By the next morning, he finds her to gloat about the stock's surge while pointedly asking about her own sinking position. She insists a recovery is coming, but he advises her to cut her losses and move on. He heads out for lunch, sarcastically wishing the stressed, data-fixated monitor the best of luck with her dwindling capital. His plans are interrupted when Pan waves him over, a gesture that immediately triggers his suspicion regarding her ulterior motives. Her uncharacteristic enthusiasm sets off alarm bells, confirming his fear that he is being lured into another social trap. Suddenly, Dan steps in to intercept, hurling insults at his social standing and status right in front of Pan. Seeing Pan's calculated science, he realizes she is using him as a shield, while Dan continues to berate her for keeping such company. Panji explains how long she spent coordinating this meal, while being exhausted by her father's constant mentions of him. Han Lee arrives and reaches out to pat her head, apologizing for the delay while scolding her for waiting and risking her hunger, leaving her flustered and indignant at his casual familiarity. She seethes internally, unable to believe he dared touch her. Yet she realizes she cannot scold him without ruining the act she staged to manipulate Dan Zihao, forcing her to resort to her final strategy. Deploying her signature silent gaze, she is shocked when he remains completely unaffected by the move that has intimidated everyone since her childhood. Dan Zihao watches with growing agitation, furious that he dared touch her, and wonders why she tolerates such greasy, superficial behavior. Panji maintains her performance, telling him not to mess up her hair again while secretly fuming, leaving Dan Zihao distressed by her total lack of retaliation. Dan Zihao introduces himself, noting that Han Lee's roommates Qi Shangbei and Ding Yu are his friends, while privately suspecting the newcomer is a fraud and inviting him for a drink to investigate further. He and his companions are unnerved by Han Lee's piercing, vacant gaze, fearing he might be mentally disturbed or even violent, while Han Lee uses his X-ray vision to check his system panel, enjoying the intimidation he causes. When someone offers to fetch utensils, he dismisses the trouble and reaches for a set of incredibly expensive, custom-made rose gold catapult cutlery on the table, stunning Dan Zihao that he is permitted to touch such an exclusive set. Panji tells him to use them, vowing to discard the set later, while Dan Zihao watches in jealous shock, realizing he has completely failed to interrupt their dynamic. Dan Zihao recoils in disbelief, struggling to comprehend how Panji could possibly be involved with Han Lee right under Shi Luting's watchful gaze. Back in her room, Panji faces intense scrutiny regarding the nature of their connection, yet she deflects every question with calculated indifference. Her friend expresses shock at his audacity, offering to help confront him while sheepishly admitting she was too preoccupied with her meal to notice the brewing tension. Mocking her friend's small stature, Panji dismisses the offer, though the other girl insists she is firmly standing by her side. Observing the endless cycle of back-and-forth betrayals between them, the friend finally decides to leave so Panji can find some peace. Alone at last, Panji lies in bed and watches her friend depart, finally savoring the silence. Born into a wealthy family, as the apple of her parents' eye, she notes that others constantly seek her help. One persistent individual begs for financial aid, foolishly assuming her vast fortune makes such debts trivial, which only leaves Panji deeply distressed. She contemplates the widening social chasm, noting that those of higher status have no need for her, while those beneath her hardly deserve her patronage. Reflecting on the situation, she realizes that while Tofu often teases her about Han Lee and Shi Luting, she always vanishes when things turn serious, leaving her to grapple with her loneliness. She blames Han Lee for the current mess, remembering how their initial meeting and Shi Luting's humiliation once seemed amusing, though now she wonders how it spiraled this far. Admitting she only wanted to spite them both, she sighs, realizing the resulting battle has left her completely exhausted and her expensive cutlery ruined. Finding both Han Li and Shi Luting dangerously bold, she struggles to pinpoint their weaknesses, knowing deep down she cannot match their sheer intensity. Suddenly, her friend bursts back into the room with breaking news. Han Li has officially climbed to 9th place in the A-share trading competition. Pang questions the significance of such a rank, but her friend points to his impressive 8% return on Kaiyuan shares as undeniable proof of his skill. The friend explains that while many top performers are merely riding a wave of luck, Han Li's calculated, consecutive daily limit hits confirm he is a genuine expert. Listening intently, Panji realizes he is truly extraordinary and offers a dismissive smile. When asked why she cares so much, she decides that if he is truly this capable, she must find a way to help elevate his profile even further. By November 13th, the classroom is buzzing with news of market fluctuations as students heap praise on a classmate for his high ranking. The student modestly dismisses the compliment as mere luck, suggesting instead that Han Li is the one truly holding back a winning ace. Amidst the murmurs of his peers, Han Li observes their scattered groups, while a frustrated girl threatens to walk out, dismissing their analysis as an utter waste of time. Gossiping classmates question his sudden absence and whether his skills are merely average until a digital display flickers to life, broadcasting the latest real-time stock rankings. An urgent warning about Teacher Lu's arrival cuts through the air, and Han Li looks up in genuine surprise as every head in the room snaps toward him. The school's official announcement confirms he has surged to 7th place nationwide in the first week of the Tang Swin competition, leaving the entire room stunned. Though he remembers real-time tracking from his past life, he finds it strangely hasty for the administration to issue such public commendations only 3 days into the contest. Cheers erupt as his peers celebrate the hidden strength behind his 15.4% yield, acknowledging that he has finally cemented his elite status. A companion teases him for his habit of waiting until the final bell to close trades, noting that Shi Luting's bet is effectively lost now that his prediction for watching Bao has materialized. He nonchalantly mentions selling his position that morning, leaving her to realize with horror that he baited her into copying his strategy just to lock in his 7,650 yuan profit. Later, as he walks the track, another girl approaches him, but he remains guarded, immediately questioning if she is just another student looking to leech off his latest trade. She openly admits to imitating his moves because he has become the class benchmark, warning him that his rapidly growing reputation will only draw more unwanted followers. While the official notice circulates, a few detractors mock the administration for overhyping what they dismiss as a minor feat from a mere business student. Meanwhile, elites from the International Exchange Department grumble that these business paupers lack the social pedigree to truly compete with them, further widening the divide. Shi Luting's companion expresses frustration that he does not appreciate her defending him, but he urges her to loosen her painful grip on his wrist. She apologizes for the intensity of her grip, though she quickly resumes scolding him for attempting to flirt after being reprimanded. A man smirks, questioning their relationship status, while Han Li worries internally that his friend's temper will lead to disciplinary trouble. The woman mocks her opponent, taunting them for acting like a loyal dog to Pan Ji, leaving the group speechless and awkward. Han Li mocks the group as they leave, inciting their anger, while Shi Luting explains she avoided a fight to prevent expulsion, prompting him to comfort her as clever. Remaining indifferent to the gossip, he promises not to let it bother him and playfully pats Shi Luting's head, causing her to react with annoyance. Elsewhere, a teacher informs Panji that her suggestion to promote the stock trading competition has been implemented on the bulletin board. A woman questions the criteria for school awards and suggests they must inquire about Han Li's background. Suspecting Panji is secretly pushing him for reasons beyond simple friendship, she privately wonders if she can perform good deeds behind the scenes, noting that the International Exchange Department likely feels threatened by his rapid rise. A dark figure warns that if he slips up, it will be a bloodbath for his reputation. Back in the dorm, his roommates congratulate him on his 7th place ranking out of 800,000 participants and offer him shrimp dumplings. They note that the school is excited by his success and may soon reward him, acknowledging the widening disparity between him and his peers. Complaining about the difficulty of their English courses, they claim that even the high achievers using insider information are currently suffering financial losses. The roommates explain that people envy his achievement, and though Dan Zihao asked about him, they ignored the rival, though they worry the school's early promotion puts too much pressure on him. Han Li reflects on Ding Yu's intelligence and wonders if his rivals from the International Exchange Department, like Dan Zihao or Pan Ji, are actively targeting him. Once his roommates leave, he decides he must stabilize his trading strategy to stay in the top 10, reminding himself that a good trader never lets emotions control operations. As the market opens on November 14, 2013, Han Li resolves to win and make a name for himself. As the market opens on November 14, 2013, Han Li focuses his gaze on the screen, vowing to maintain a flawless winning streak to cement his elite status. Watching his gains climb to 25.5 against the previous high of 18.5, he intensifies his concentration to ensure his market position remains stable. Defending his top 10 ranking becomes his immediate priority, even as a notification arrives summoning him to face the smiling tiger over the earlier clash with Lu Hong. Shi Luting berates him for the ongoing friction, threatening to resign her post as class monitor if he continues to invite such trouble. She complains about the mounting pressure of her role, But her words are cut short when teacher Lu abruptly calls for Han Lai, his demeanor shifting instantly. Dismissing the monitor, the teacher insists on speaking with Han Li in private, leaving her visibly unsettled by the sudden exclusion. Inside the office, Lu praises his trading performance, though Han Li feigns a touch of anxiety regarding that morning's incident to carefully gauge the man's true reaction. He cleverly reframes the situation, ensuring the student receives commendation rather than punishment. Lu instructs him to keep his focus on the competition, handing over an application for the student union and promising formal school rewards for his continued success. When the teacher begins probing into his family background, Han Li grows wary. Sensing the school's intense interest in his performance is driven by external pressures, realizing Uncle Zhang has been inquiring about him. He deduces that Pan Jie is leveraging her influence to target him, so he prepares to counter her latest publicity stunt. He wonders how this unwanted spotlight is intended to finish him off, just as Shi Luting returns to ask about the meeting, clearly concerned about her own scholarship prospects. Brushing off her persistent questions, he offers a vague reply, and both feel a sense of relief to have escaped immediate disciplinary action. Back in the lecture hall, their teacher publicly celebrates both him and Shi Luting for securing the highest rankings in the school. Noticing his surprising academic breakthrough, she shyly approaches him to ask if he might consider calling off their high-stakes bet. He teases her for trying to back out now that he has reached the live trading round, firmly urging her to keep her word. She remains hesitant about their wager, fearing her recent gains are merely a fluke and dreading the potential for public embarrassment. He encourages her to push for the finals to secure real wealth, but she admits she has outgrown the need to rely on his homework to succeed. Teacher Lu interrupts to reprimand her for independent trading, though Han Li is stunned to discover she has already banked a significant profit. Publicly, she confesses to copying his work to avoid social disgrace, a calculated move that Han Li finds surprisingly sharp. He exchanges barbs with her, secretly regretting that he missed his chance to bully her now that she is retreating from the competition. Despite the friction, he admires her resolve to walk away from fame, noting how her integrity contrasts with the desperate claimers surrounding them. He wonders if she can truly navigate the coming social pressures as he prepares for his own temporary liberation from their shared scrutiny. The rhythm of his day is broken when university directors arrive at his dorm, barging in to offer him official recognition. Director Lu and the student union president shower him with praise for bringing glory to the institution through his impressive ranking. They present him with a list of rewards and assistance, promising to grant any reasonable request he might make. An international exchange program fully funded is dangled as an incentive should he successfully reach the competition finals. Han Li scoffs at the offer, telling them he needs no favors to prove his worth. Unfazed by his defiance, the directors are impressed by his pragmatism and agree to support his future needs without strings. He eventually agrees to cooperate with their promotional interviews on the condition that they clear his demanding academic schedule. After finalizing the deal, the student union representatives exchange contact information with him before finally departing. In the shadows, a rival vows to strip everything away from him while school staff begin drafting official publicity proposals to capitalize on his success. Watching the directors depart, the middle-aged man credits Pan Jie for his discovery of Han Li, while an elderly man nearby listens with sudden, sharp curiosity. The elder questions why she intervened personally, prompting the man to explain that she explicitly ordered him to keep her involvement a secret. After confirming Han Li's identity and noting that Director Pan seems to favor the boy, the elder approves the publicity proposal and orders a slight increase to the bonus cap. His assistant agrees to handle it immediately, his urgency mounting as he moves to finalize the paperwork that will push Han Li's career forward. He celebrates his success, realizing that securing this promotion proposal is a major victory in his own professional ascent. Reflection leads him to conclude that while Principal Zhang and Director Pan are not particularly close to Han Li, they are both willing to help him for their own reasons. Entering the office, he senses the relationship between Han Li and Pan Jie is far from simple, suspecting she harbors genuine romantic interest. To secure his own future, he decides to pedestalize Han Li, hoping that pleasing Pan Gongai will earn him favor with her father. He prepares to contact her with the news, just as a phone call from Uncle Zhang interrupts her own day. Uncle Zhang expresses immense gratitude to Pan Jie for recommending such a talent, promising to secure resources for Han Li, which leaves her visibly rattled. As he continues to express his thanks for her care of the boy, she hangs up abruptly, leading the teacher to assume she is simply distracted by her sweetheart. She appears pale and stressed as a classmate approaches, oblivious to her internal turmoil, and invites her to dinner. The man tries to impress her by insulting Han Li's financial status, suggesting he cannot afford a high-end restaurant, but she snaps at him to be quiet, aggressively confronting his arrogant attitude. She forces him to step aside as she leaves, abandoning him confused and sweating over the intensity of her reaction. Standing on the rooftop, she laments failing to manipulate the situation and inadvertently giving Han Li an opportunity. Returning home, she is met by a maid who informs her that her father is looking for her, which fills her with a sudden sense of dread. Her father confirms that Zhang contacted him, and he immediately asks her about the true nature of her relationship with Han Lei. Han Lei shifts his focus to his desk, planning to polish 3 chapters and stockpile manuscripts before the short-lived stock competition demands his full attention. His concentration breaks when an unexpected message from the spirit guardian beast asks if he is in the finance program, leaving him wondering why she is reconnecting after 10 days of silence. He reflects that their diverging schedules made drifting apart inevitable, knowing that long-distance connections struggle to survive without consistent communication. When she asks if he participated in the A-share competition, he admits that he and his friend failed, prompting her to tease him for only remembering her because of a rumored prodigy in his class. She reveals she is accompanying her friend's brother to his area this weekend and asks if he can host them, surprising him with the suddenness of the visit. Considering how to smooth over past events if she arrives, he eventually decides to simply enjoy the upcoming weekend to relax. Elsewhere, Panji sits in an opulent room and tries to deflect her father's inquiries about her school day, claiming she is too tired to talk. Her mother comforts her with a massage, pressuring her to open up about her stress or any secrets she might be keeping. As the interrogation continues, Panji wonders why both of her parents are acting so strangely at once. Her father admits he has lost money in the market and mentions that Uncle Zhang recommended a talented student acquaintance to teach him, causing Panji to worry about the connection to Han Li. When her parents suggest having Han Li manage their stock account, she finds the idea outrageous, fearing they have uncovered her secret relationship. Panji reacts with shock and makes nervous excuses, arguing that he is not capable enough and that inviting a male classmate home is inappropriate. Her mother insists she invite a female classmate as well to ensure the dinner proceeds, and she reluctantly agrees. Her parents discuss their plan, realizing she is reluctant to engage with men, and decide that getting her marriage settled is a priority. Though they worry about triggering her anger, they feel they cannot sit idly by as she grows into her own independence. The next morning, Han Lai wakes up at 8, ready to continue his path of upgrading through consumption. A text from Panji pings on his phone, inviting him to her home to discuss stock trading alongside Shi Luting. He scowls at the screen, annoyed that she included Shi Luting and suspecting her father is orchestrating this meeting for his own ends. Before he can process the invite, a message from Yu Yun pops up asking for lunch, forcing him to shift his itinerary. Stepping outside, he finds a blonde student waiting with her friend Ding Sheng, who spots him and immediately identifies him as the rumored campus genius. He cracks a joke about his physical evolution, noting that a simple haircut and dental correction were all it took to refine his look. The blonde introduces her doormate Ding Sheng to him, who playfully labels him a little macho guy. She admits to circulating that nickname during his introduction, though their banter is cut short by the arrival of Chen Yanfei. Standing near the subway entrance, he feels the air grow thick with tension as the blonde beckons him to join their circle. He encounters Ding Yu nearby, who looks stunned and visibly unsettled upon realizing he is standing face-to-face with Han Li. Seeking to break the awkwardness, the blonde suggests they head to lunch to officially get acquainted. She offloads her shopping bags into his hands, and he accepts the task, dutifully escorting the women away. Passers-by watch in disbelief, struggling to understand why he is receiving such preferential treatment. Ding Yu sees with jealousy, recalling that even Chen Yanfei's previous partners never deigned to carry her bags. Unable to contain his frustration, Ding Yu calls out to him with sudden, sharp hostility. Visibly struggling with the shifting social hierarchy, the blonde erupts into hysterical laughter at Ding Yu's bizarre outburst, clearly amused by the petty display. She teases him about his new status as a brother-in-law, while Ding Yu receives a sharp reprimand for his lack of composure. A bystander intervenes to halt the squabbling, telling them to settle on their titles and move on to prevent a scene. The blonde shouts a question about their food preferences, leading Ding Yu to send the group toward the seating area while he heads off to purchase the meal. Han Li and the others make their way toward the cafeteria, eager to finally sit down and sample the food. As they navigate the cafeteria, he steadies a blonde woman who nearly trips in her heels, warning her to watch her step while he struggles to maintain his own balance. She teases him, asking if he has a habit of helping women, while his sister figure Yu Yun chimes in with a playful accusation of dishonesty. Suddenly, Yu Yun catches sight of someone she assumes must be his secret girlfriend, leaving him bewildered by the woman's unexpected arrival. A bystander in a red jacket demands to know the girl's identity, prompting him to clarify that she is merely a high school classmate paying him a visit. Realizing the truth, Yu Yun observes the girl's striking appearance and inwardly praises the classic beauty of his former flame. She wonders aloud why he had kept such an impressive acquaintance hidden from her all this time. A sudden sense of unease washes over Yu Yun as she realizes her blunder, noting that the newcomer possesses the unmistakable aura of a first love goddess. When the blonde girl asks for a formal introduction, Yu Yun steps forward, identifying herself simply as his classmate and current partner in their writing endeavors. Chen Yanfei introduces herself as his former classmate, pointedly asking if he has managed to maintain his popularity at this new university. With a mischievous glint in her eye, Yu Yun enthusiastically details his academic triumphs, joking that his current pool of female admirers is large enough to fill a mahjong table. Chen Yanfei reveals that her own father considers him an outstanding talent. a claim that leaves the man standing beside her visibly shocked. She leans in closer to tease him, but he remains stoically silent, determined to avoid saying anything that might lead to further misunderstandings. Flustered by the revelation that he has already met her parents, Yu Yun probes for details, desperate to uncover the extent of their romantic history. Chen Yanfei reflects on their past, feeling a growing irritation at his calm, detached demeanor toward the other girls surrounding him. Unable to stand the tension, she makes her disdain for Yu Yun's gossipy nature clear, prompting him to ask why they are still just standing in the middle of the aisle. She gestures to her friend, Ding Shang, who announces that they have come specifically to celebrate his recent success in the Asher competition. As Ding Shang and Chen Yanfei exchange a knowing look, Yu Yun grows increasingly suspicious of their true motives for crashing his day. He turns to face them with an indulgent, unreadable gaze, and the sudden shift in his intensity leaves Yu Yun visibly rattled. The atmosphere grows even more charged when Shi Luting appears, demanding to know the identity of these visitors and reminding him of their prior commitments. Caught between the dueling pairs, he watches the social tension escalate as the class monitor approaches. Shi Luting watches the newcomer with a sharp gaze, confident that she will be pleased to see her, while Han Li focuses on seizing the power to upgrade his attributes, knowing that converting money into status is his only path from a penniless loser to a true elite. Chen Yanfei and Ding Shang square off against Shi Luting and Yu Yun, creating a suffocating pressure that leaves Han Li wishing he could simply vanish from the center of this volatile Shura field. He weighs his precarious standing, wary that pushing the little cucumber too far could ruin his plans, yet he remains trapped between his various pursuers, haunted by the memory of the long, arduous road he traveled to befriend his first crush, Yanfei. When Shi Luting presses her about their history, Yanfei dismisses the rumors of them being exes, asserting firmly that Lai never had a girlfriend during their high school years. Silence falls as she signals for the others to listen, revealing that Li had instead harbored a secret, unrequited crush, leaving him standing there in stunned confusion, unable to find a way to navigate this sudden exposure. The atmosphere thickens as everyone processes the revelation. Shi Luting wonders if she might be the hidden object of his affection, while the others draw parallels to the mysterious legend of the dragon's heart. Annoyed by the perceived intimacy between Yanfei and Lai, the blonde girl points an accusatory finger, demanding to know exactly where he directed his attention during those formative years. Ding Xiang speaks up, claiming she will keep her own feelings hidden because she believes Lai will eventually find the right person, insisting he has no need to pursue anyone when others are constantly chasing him. The group wonders if a past crush would have been intimidated by his old personality, yet they acknowledge that he has transformed into a handsome campus heartthrob, a change that leaves them both impressed and bewildered. Yanfei sarcastically thanks them for boosting his confidence, while Ding Jiang explains that she and Shi Luting often look after him because he is far too obsessed with his studies to remember his own wallet, forcing Li to complain about them exposing his reliance on their free meals. The blonde girl mocks him for his blatant mooching, pulling his ear as she demands to know why he cannot afford his own food despite having enough money to purchase a house. When the others question how a non-local student could possibly afford property, Lai explains that after facing purchase restrictions in the capital, he invested in school district houses near their alma mater to secure his future. He admits that after paying the fees, he had only 2,000 yuan left, forcing him to accept their charity. His peers are impressed by his resourcefulness, though one girl sarcastically labels his funds a cosmetic surgery budget. She continues to mock him for his pride in eating free meals, while Li remains caught in the crossfire of their scrutiny, his calculated investments still serving as the fuel for his rise to becoming an elite. His past self was far too soft, he reflects. But a system chime cuts through his thoughts, granting him the opportunity-seizing skill that allows him to turn every crisis into a stepping stone toward the top. Onlookers watch his sudden shift in intensity with wide eyes, while Yu Yun suspects the blonde girl is manipulating him, fearing that these entanglements will only derail his path to becoming a powerful CEO. Jealous of her flawless figure, Yu Yun corners him, demanding he explain these constant social clashes or risk losing her presence in his life entirely. Feeling the mounting pressure, he decides to intervene, dismissing the label of mere customer to affirm their bond as one of trusted friends and classmates. Her anger softens instantly, but the room falls into a stunned silence when he suddenly confesses his feelings, boldly asking for a relationship. Gasps ripple through the crowd as she scrambles to find an excuse to escape the spotlight. Yet he presses forward, forcing her to finally confront his declaration. Fearing the inevitable fallout from Uncle Pan, she eventually flees the scene, leaving Yu Yun to mock the sincerity of his confession, convinced it is nothing more than a calculated play. Defensive, the blonde girl insists she is not the one provoking these fights, prompting him to take a deep breath and directly confront Shi Mengjun, leaving everyone bewildered by his sudden shift in focus. Yu Yun and the others stand frozen in terror, realizing he knows the intimate details of her web novel, and fearing he is about to expose her deepest secrets to the entire class. Shi Luting suddenly turns timid, offering him a quiet apology that leaves the observers baffled, as they sense he is concealing a mysterious, domineering power beneath his calm exterior. Fang Feifei moves to apologize to Yu Yun for their previous friction, thanking her for looking after him while maintaining a fragile facade of harmony. Sarcasm drips from Yu Yun's reply as she thanks Feifei for the new sister-in-law, prompting him to sternly order Shi Lu Ting to lead her away, ending the incident with a final, chilling warning. The women finally disperse, leaving Han Li to exhale as the suffocating tension of the confrontation dissipates into the air. His system logs the maneuvers and awards enough experience to push his tug skill toward level 4. Shen Yanfei corners him, demanding to know if he is using Ding Shang as a shield, though Han Li simply counters by asking if she prefers delicate types or finds his own dominant personality off-putting. He compares her temperament to that of a princess, reflecting that one must either remain ruthless or avoid love entirely to escape such emotional exhaustion. When she reacts with visible shock to the word ruthless, he suggests they instead take active control of their conflicts to better adjust to one another. Yan Fei questions his sudden proposal, admitting she fell for him on the train and fears his growing popularity with other girls will leave her behind. She outlines her simple vision of building a life together, leaving him to wonder if their dynamic has truly blossomed into a genuine romance. Despite his internal anxiety over their compatibility, her insistence that love is worth the risk reinforces why he finds her sincerity so captivating. He confesses his past failures and deep-seated greed, admitting he is not yet ready to be the man she deserves because his primary goal remains his own relentless aunt. Acknowledging his ambition to climb higher at any cost, he essentially rejects the emotional intimacy she offers. Elsewhere, a girl panics over a text exchange, realizing Han Li discovered her secret after he spotted a delivery slip she failed to destroy. Later, he and a companion visit a fruit store, debating if buying simple gifts is sufficient for students. After selecting expensive items like Brazilian cherries at 158 yuan per pound, he waits for his companion to handle the payment. She argues that he bullied her and caused her to lose face, leading to a heated dispute over who should be responsible for the bill. He sighs and settles the bill himself, paying no mind to the shopkeeper's amused chuckle as he tallies the mounting cost of his social obligations. Yu Yun snaps at him for hoarding his own cash while constantly mooching off others, secretly plotting to drain his funds so he finally stops chasing every girl in sight. Han Li retorts that she is actually the one with the deeper pockets, thanks to her writing royalties, just as a system notification chimes to grant him a consumer giveaway. Examining the reward, a pack of sweet fruit-flavored chewing gum, he notes its peculiar attribute boosts and wonders if the system is pushing him toward more romantic pursuits. She grows visibly flustered, vehemently denying she is the author of that steamy book, while he teases her about the chaotic, melodramatic style she claims to despise. Admitting that those passionate scenes were surprisingly impactful leaves her stunned and mortified, fearing he has finally pierced the veil to realize she is the true author. They ride in silence toward their destination, the cramped space making Yu Yun increasingly anxious and awkward as the tension mounts. Breaking the silence, she demands to know his actual romantic type, though she flatly refuses to believe him when he references his recent impulsive confession, pressing him on his feelings for Pan Jie. She forces Han Li to feign ignorance, even as he acknowledges the cold social prestige that comes with dating such a wealthy beauty. She insists she is not a lesbian to correct his assumption, while he denies any romantic interest in Pan Jie. She worries that he will continue to misinterpret her previous behavior, then pivots sharply to demand the truth about his past involvement with Fang Feifei. He suggests they book a room tomorrow to practice acting out their novel scenes together, masking his desire to broaden his own horizons behind a business proposal. Rejecting the suggestion, she engages in a playful argument over who would make a better CEO. Han Li mocks her surprising expertise in psychological stimulation, leaving her flustered and embarrassed by the implications of their banter as the cab pulls to a stop. They bicker over the fare until Yu Yun finally sighs, utterly exhausted by the sheer mental effort required to keep pace with him. Stepping out before a sprawling mansion, she is left speechless as Panji emerges to greet them, dwarfed by the sheer scale of the magnificent estate. As Panji welcomes them inside, Han Li accepts slippers and realizes the house is worth over 100 million. Admiring the redhead's elegance, Han Li pivots the conversation to request a piano performance. Auntie Zhao immediately snaps at her partner for his rudeness, causing Panji to jump in surprise at her mother's sudden outburst. Demanding to know why their arrival was kept a secret, Zhao introduces herself to Han Li and Yu Yun. Shi Lu Ting offers a polite greeting, prompting Zhao to smile and remark on how she and Panja are practically inseparable. Han Li presents the fruit he brought, politely asking where he should place their gifts. Accepting the offering despite her insistence that guests shouldn't bring anything, Zhao privately notes that he is just as sensible as Panji's father described. She instructs Panji to lead Shi Lu Ting to the living room while she steers Han Li toward the kitchen, urging her daughter to finally summon her father. Inside the kitchen, Zhao requests fruit trays and tasks Han Li with arranging the produce on the table. He explains his modest upbringing in Dream City, causing Zhao to reflect on her own past visits to the developing region. She smugly probes whether he suffers from bullying by the wealthy, but his calm explanation that avoiding trouble keeps him safe earns her approval. Determining that his social status is irrelevant as long as he influences Panji's romantic interests, she mentally marks him as an acceptable partner. Uncle Pan suddenly enters the room, acting with exaggerated enthusiasm as he welcomes Han Li and insists on sharing a pot of tea. While Panji and Shi Luting look embarrassed by the nickname he uses, Zhao offers red wine, though Panji stubbornly chooses cola instead. Surprised by the choice, Zhao watches as Pan lectures Han Li on how his rare tea serves to build patience. She drops subtle hints regarding Panji's personality, leaving Han Li suspicious of whether they are attempting to manipulate his intentions toward their daughter. Recognizing the family's cunning nature makes Panji difficult to read. He decides to maintain the role of a neutral observer. Boasting about the scarcity of his tea, Pan invites Han Li to make visits on the weekends before they head toward the dining table. Sitting down for dinner, Han Li feels a strange, mounting nervousness at being trapped within such a high-stakes, opulent home. Panji catches her parents' intense gaze and feels the pressure mounting, while her father suddenly breaks the silence with a violent coughing fit. He quickly recovers and insists the group start eating before the food loses its warmth, warmly inviting Shi Luting to treat the estate as her own. As his wife begins serving the crab, he struggles to maintain his composure, internally terrified that his daughter's entire future depends on this single meal. Han Lek accepts a glass of vintage wine, determined to match his host drink for drink to solidify his standing with the family. When the mother encourages Panji to switch to cola, the girl stubbornly sticks to wine, mirroring the strong pour shared by the two men. Han Li glances at Yu Yun, worried that her low tolerance will lead to a scene, but she insists on keeping pace, leaving him to suspect they are already feeling the buzz. He watches with growing annoyance as both women grow visibly intoxicated after just one glass, silently questioning their incredibly weak constitutions. The pair begins reminiscing about their past heartbreaks, bonding over a shared disdain for the opposite sex as they slam their fists on the table in mutual agreement that all men are scoundrels. Drunkenly venting their rage toward Han Li, they jokingly plot to capture and punish him with whips and collars for his perceived shamelessness. Their elders watch the outburst in utter confusion, whispering to each other that this strange bond must stem from deep-seated romantic trauma. Ignoring the gossip, Uncle Pan leans in and presses Han Li to keep drinking, though the young man politely asks him to stop using the formal title of teacher. In his own increasingly intoxicated state, the host finally drops his guard, tearfully begging Han Li to marry into the family and become his son-in-law. Han Li feels deeply frustrated that the professional facade has completely dissolved, yet Uncle Pan insists that status is irrelevant so long as the union is secured. Attempting to regain control of the conversation, Han Li firmly declares that his heart is already committed to Shi Luting. Later, he carefully guides the stumbling woman toward the exit, scolding her for treating such expensive wine as if it were nothing more than tap water. The evening concludes abruptly when she suddenly snaps out of her haze, screaming at Hanwha to stay away from her. He steadies her unsteady gait, though she insists she is perfectly capable of navigating the night despite her intoxicated state. A sudden burst of incoherent shouting gives way to silence as she slumps into his arms, leaving him to marvel at the sheer volatility of youth. Since the dorms are locked at this hour, he secures a hotel room and watches over her while she drifts into a deep, alcohol-fueled sleep. Checking that she is truly unconscious, he slips out to find Auntie Zhao, who has already begun a heated confrontation with Uncle Pan. Auntie Zhao demands to know if he was aware of Han Li's feelings for Shi Luting, pressing him for a truthful admission. He attempts to feign ignorance, but she dismisses his defense, incensed that he would actively encourage the boy's polygamous tendencies. Despite his tearful protestations of devotion, she remains unconvinced and demands to know if he has already handed over the trading account. He admits to granting Han Li access to 500,000 yuan, arguing that such capital is essential for a young man's pursuits and represents a trivial sum given their standing. Remaining skeptical, she warns that this influx of money will only invite future complications, while he defends his mentorship, citing his deep disappointment in Josie. Back in his room, Han Li audits the account details, discovering 30 million yuan in assets and a lucrative commission structure that proves consumption is his fastest path to elite status. The girl stirs restlessly on the bed, and he lingers by her side, observing the flush of color still lingering on her skin. She wakes in the unfamiliar room, blinking in confusion before concluding that she must be trapped in a vivid dream. When he explains they missed the curfew, she shoves him away, shouting that it is entirely inappropriate for them to be in such close quarters. She accuses him of maintaining a condescending, scummy attitude, venting her long-standing frustration at his relentless flirtations. Yet beneath her sharp resentment, she confesses her buried feelings, pulling his face toward hers as the boundary between her anger and desire dissolves. She hesitates, trembling with a sudden, shy vulnerability as she leans in close, catching him completely off guard. Without warning, she retches, splattering blood across his chest and leaving him frozen in a state of absolute horror as he stares at the spreading stain. A deep sense of dread washes over him. He resolves to keep her far from alcohol in the future, pulling the covers up to shield her shivering frame. Morning light filters into the hotel room as she stirs, disoriented and struggling to piece together how she ended up there after the night with Panji. Fragmented memories of the evening surface and she winces, embarrassed by a vivid dream of that infuriating guy, Han Lee. A wave of relief washes over her as she realizes it was only a dream, though a lingering confusion remains regarding his current whereabouts. Irritation flares when she finds only a brief note instead of a message, and she glances around the unfamiliar sterile room. Her heart stops as she spots an unidentified red liquid pooled on the sofa, triggering a frantic panic spiral over whether she has lost her virginity. Miles away, he borrows a power bank from a restaurant owner, but his quiet meal is abruptly shattered by a persistent ringing. Glancing at his secondary phone, he sees a flurry of desperate texts from her. Realizing she is finally sobering up and reaching out to his online persona, Ham. Fearful that his voice might betray him, he hesitates before deciding to send his number, betting on the disguise to verify her mental state. She dials the digits, exhaling in relief when the voice on the other end sounds nothing like the man she despises, completely unaware she is speaking to him. He skillfully employs a voice changer to goad her, while she indignantly defends her loyalty to the man she secretly crushes on. Pouring out her heart, she explains that after the drinking session, she woke up in a hotel surrounded by ominous red stains. She admits she has no one else to trust, a confession that catches him off guard and causes him to choke on his food in pure astonishment. He realizes his attempt to leave a note failed because his companion was far too intoxicated to notice it, leaving him alone in the hotel and unable to reach her. After checking his dead battery, he concludes she must have stepped out to find a charger, so he decides to wait and trust she eventually finds his explanation. She discovers the note detailing that the red stain was only wine and that he had slept on the floor, allowing her panic to finally subside. Returning to the dorm, she faces an immediate interrogation about her whereabouts, and the mounting suspicion quickly reveals she spent the night with Han Lee. Meanwhile, he heads to the bank to cash his check, completely unaware that his phone has run out of power. Upon finally charging his device, he is bombarded by 99 frantic messages from Yu Yun demanding a full explanation for his night with her. She confesses a bizarre desire to purchase adult items for testing, but his immediate teasing causes her to snap and block his contact. Annoyed by this sudden digital wall, he decides to blacklist her in return, cutting off their connection. He reflects on his past, harboring no grudge against Yu Yun or Fei Fei for their calculated tricks, but his resentment toward Ting Ting for her past betrayal remains sharp, fueling his resolve to stop being a pushover. Recognizing that her manipulative nature stems from insecurity, he refuses to remain a victim and heads to the gym to improve his base attributes, strength, agility, constitution, and intelligence, all currently hovering around 70, as he commits to intensive sessions to evolve into a true elite. Pushing his physical limits in the gym, he commits to a grueling regimen to ensure he can meet Pan's expectations and finally secure his place with Pan Jae. Once his trading positions are locked, he meets with a professor who hands him a small school bonus meant to incentivize his academic and financial achievements. Finding the total sum underwhelming, he decides to use the payout to treat Ding Yu and his friends to a celebratory feast. When his siblings reach out asking for funds, he realizes he needs to unblock Little Cucumber to settle their outstanding business. He sends an invitation to her for the dinner, but she responds with biting skepticism and flatly rejects the idea of joining his inner circle. To bait her, he claims he will recommend a new novel to Lu Shi, successfully goading her into accepting the invite just to protect her professional pride. As rumors of his guest list circulate, he asks for the contact details of Chen Yanfei's sister, sparking palpable tension among those tracking his social maneuvers. That evening, he gathers with his companions on a city rooftop, finding everyone already assembled and waiting for his arrival. He offers a polite compliment on their style before formally introducing Xiaodong Bei to the rest of the table, including Fang Fei Fei and Cucumber. Suspecting his motives regarding his sister and Yanfei, the group sits at the dining table with wary anticipation. He brushes off their hesitation and insists on ordering the most extravagant dishes, telling them to enjoy a meal worth 5,000 yuan. A classmate pulls him aside to warn that his exclusive guest list is fueling malicious gossip, but he remains entirely unmoved by their petty grievances. He admits to the table that he is a selfish lone wolf who has no interest in maintaining a pristine social image, explaining that this gathering serves a specific purpose. When they press him for a reason, he drops the facade and declares that he is officially leaving the university. He reveals his transfer to Fudan University, and as the girl breaks down in an emotional outburst, he mocks her distress while she demands the truth about his feelings for her and the others. He remains unmoved by her outburst, insisting he is merely stating facts as he feels neither attraction nor aversion toward anyone present. Shi Lu Ting recoils at his blatant disregard, branding him a shameless playboy until a sudden, sharp realization forces her to pause. Mocking the sheer impossibility of her following him to Fudan University, he triggers an immediate, furious outburst from her. She accuses him of playing tricks, but he only laughs, goading her until she threatens to beat him into silence. Yu Yun interjects to defend him, teasingly suggesting that if he must act out, he should bully her instead so she can enjoy the attention. The air between them turns icy, leaving both women in a cold, silent standoff with their arms tightly crossed. Continuing to provoke them, he claims that underneath her sharp exterior, Yu Yun actually has a natural knack for being gentle. To diffuse the mounting pressure, he casually offers to buy bubble tea for his sisters-in-law. leaving the table in a heavy, awkward silence. Yu-Yun finally dismisses the tension with a shrug, playfully acknowledging just how impressive it is to be a close acquaintance of a man like him.